My parents infested my entire house with cockroaches after I invited them to stay over for a few months after their house got damaged in a flood. And now several things in my house have started to go wrong as my parents' lack of cleanliness and hygiene is starting to ruin my life. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 37-year-old female and I've been moved out and on my own ever since my early 20s. I actually love my parents and I have a great relationship with them. However, I cannot live with them because seriously, they can be careless, sloppy people. I grew up with cockroaches and mice being a regular infestation. Food would be left out everywhere, there would be like random patches of mold growing in places, and I basically grew up in a house with leaks that they just don't tangibly fix. When I started living by myself because I moved to another city for work, I quickly realized that living with bugs or living in a mess was not normal. Thankfully, my first few roommates have taught me how to properly clean and take care of my space. Well, I'm now married with kids and I'm living in a house with my partner that I bought about 3 years ago, and trust me, our space is always clean. Well, recently, my parents' house was damaged after a flood, and they needed to evacuate while the repairs took place. Given I do have a good relationship with my parents, I invited them to stay with us for the few months that it would take to repair their house. Well, within a week of them moving in, I saw my first cockroach in years, and now I have a whole infestation that I'm paying expensively to fix, and yet it keeps coming back. In fact, the other day, my fridge broke while my partner and I were at work, and eventually the fridge started leaking water. And instead of cleaning it up and informing us about it, my parents did something to it, which I'm still not sure what they did, which eventually caused it to leak water through its back pipes. Like, I literally didn't realize that my fridge was broken until I noticed my basement ceiling boards leaking water. And when I checked above it, I saw that my fridge's water pipe was leaking out water. I then asked if anybody knew about this, and my parents said, "Oh, we knew about it, but we just knew how to clean it up." And now because of that, we have to get a new fridge and repair these like soaked ceiling boards and get a plumber to fix the pipes. For the past few days, there's been a foul odor coming from somewhere in the house that I simply couldn't find. And it wasn't until my parents admitted that they accidentally forgot to freeze some fish they recently caught on their fishing trip. So it's literally been sitting in my garage for the past few days, causing the entire house to smell bad. Now, they did say that they genuinely forgot until they themselves went to check after I complained about the smell. Well, obviously I snapped at them and I told them that they had to follow the rules of my house. They then kindly told me that they're both getting older now and that, oh, our memories are just not what they used to be. In fact, they both claimed that they don't think they can change their habits as it's just deeply ingrained in them, and that if I could just find it in me to forgive their mistakes, that would be great. Now, I love my parents, but they have ruined my sanctuary with my spouse and my kids. So at this point, what can I do to protect my house and teach my parents to respect my rules? They are genuinely people who are not coming from malicious intent, but instead, like genuinely, they're just clueless and bad at taking care of their space. I don't want to ruin our loving relationship over this, but also I can't let this happen. What should I do? Bro, the second you saw a cockroach in your house, you should have been like, okay, this isn't working, you gotta go. Like, holy crap, you now have an infestation? Like, are you kidding me? I would lose it on my parents if they came to my house and then gave me cockroaches all over the place. Seriously, that would be so upsetting. I would never forgive them for that. Not to mention them leaving, oh, I don't know, decaying fish in your garage and literally breaking the refrigerator and not saying anything about it. Like, dude, I get that you love them and they're genuinely good people, but they gotta go, man. If this was me, I'd be like, okay, call your insurance company, get a hotel, do anything else. You're definitely not staying with me, so you gotta go. Also, for them trying to be like, oh, we just don't remember, our memory's not what it used to be. That is, in my opinion, the biggest excuse out of all of this. They do know what they're doing is wrong, they just don't care. Like, from the outside looking in, and I say this as nicely as I can, I really think you're just excusing this bad behavior because it's like, oh man, I love my parents and they love me. They're so good for me, but it's like, dude, no, they're not. They clearly don't care. Like, they literally gave you cockroaches, dude. Those things are crawling all over the place and laying eggs everywhere. Like, oh my God, I would go nuts, dude. There's no way that's okay. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would ask them to leave. This would send a very clear message that this is not okay. You cannot treat my space like this and expect me to be okay with it, because their actions and their attitude surrounding this is completely lazy and just unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, first off, you need to subscribe, otherwise you're totally missing out. But also, please check out Am I the Genius? We love what they're doing over there, and I'm just convinced you're gonna love them as well. So please, check them out. This is like a fantastic opportunity to like cross-pollinate the community, and I think you're really gonna like them. Speaking of community, the best way to get involved in this community, where you share your own stories and experiences, is by going to amithejerk.com/submit. We would love to hear your stories and hear your experiences in life. It's kind of the best place on the internet if I'm not being too unbiased to like share your experiences. And trust me, we read through those all the time, so I would love to hear what you have to say. Now, speaking of the community, I have to give a big shout out to someone who didn't even get first on the last video. In fact, previously, I highlighted someone who was the 6th person in the video who was like, oh yeah, I got 6th. Because Red Panda here, they got 8th. And honestly, I'm proud of you, dude. Top 8, baby. You made it to the quarterfinals. And that, in my opinion, is something to be proud of. But without further delay, let's get back to the video and on to the next story. My coworkers keep trying to invite themselves into my home poker game, and right now I'm really regretting letting anybody know about this, and I don't know how to turn them down. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this isn't like specifically only aimed at this one individual, but oftentimes various people of all ages and gender try to get in on this game. But this is like literally the most recent one, and honestly, I'm kind of at my wit's end. Okay, with that bit out of the way, I have a low-key poker group that I run. It's only with people that I personally know, and I have a rule to everyone that they cannot invite anyone themselves. The moment they do that, or if they ask unsolicited, it's an automatic ban for them. And the asking part honestly is not that strict, and oftentimes I do ask if anyone has a recommendation for someone to join us. Also, I tell them to not tell anyone about the game. I make that very clear during my invite, just to avoid any situations in the future. Well, about 2 years ago, I got more space for the room while I host my game, and I also moved to another department at work, and this will be important later on. In the time I worked at my previous department, I had gotten pretty close to several people, and because now that I have more space, I decided to expand the call list a bit more. So I went ahead and I asked a couple of people if they were interested. Well, good things eventually come to an end, because now there's a rumor going around about a poker game that I run, and several people have asked me about it. And to be completely honest, I should have really kept work friends separate from my poker game just to avoid this. I don't think anyone directly on purpose told anyone about it, and hopefully it was just an honest mistake. But now people are asking me about it quite often. I don't want to come off as rude or exclusive, although yes, this is very exclusive for various obvious reasons. So I don't know how to approach this, especially since some of the people asking me are either like direct coworkers in my department that I literally work with every single day, or they might be stakeholders from other departments that I work with often. So seriously, how do I deal with something like this? Because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think if you got some like exclusive thing going on, then I would just be honest and say, sorry, it's a small group. I'm trying to keep it into like a small circle of people, and I can't really invite anyone else at this time. So sorry about that. Because dude, you really should have kept this to close friends. Like, don't invite people from work. You see these people every single day. Like, if you really want to ruin this hobby and like this meetup that you have, then this is the best way to do it. So yeah, I would definitely stop talking about this, and I would stop inviting coworkers, dude. That way you can kind of preserve like this Fight Club type of like gambling thing you got going on, which I think is incredibly funny, and I think you should definitely keep doing it. My ex-boyfriend is refusing to accept the fact that we broke up, as he's still trying to desperately talk to me about our former relationship, putting me in a situation where I'm seriously considering just blocking him and just moving on with my life entirely. Because at this point, I'm frustrated and I don't know what else to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so after 3 years together, I recently broke up with my ex-boyfriend. We started dating in our junior year of high school, and the breakup was my idea, primarily due to a severe lack of effort, poor communication, and a feeling that the relationship was hindering my personal growth. A month after the breakup, he asked if we could try again. Neither of us wanted to rush back into a relationship, so we agreed to meet up occasionally to talk, share some updates, and maybe reflect on why things just didn't work. While it initially gave me some insight, I've realized I don't need these talks to heal. In fact, they're only showing me how fundamentally incompatible we are, and I'm just completely drained. Now, to give you some context on why I ended the relationship, first of all, there was like a lack of independence and effort. Now, when we left high school, I got my license immediately, but after about like almost 2 years out of high school, he had no job, no college plans, and he refused to get his license despite everyone begging him to do so. I literally drove us everywhere, and I even drove him to do his grocery shopping and his errands. And the entire time, he never once offered gas money. I get incredibly tired behind the wheel, and I hate driving in compact cities or on freeways, which I definitely communicated, but when it comes to this, he never took my comfort into consideration, which is really ironic because he finally got his license only after I officially broke up with him. In addition, it was only until the 3rd year of our relationship that he actually started paying for stuff. Prior to that, we'd split things, and oftentimes he would just forget to pay me back. I work in a minimum wage drink place while also being a full-time student, and although he wasn't making money back then, he still could have like gotten a job as well. Now, the second point is that we basically have fundamentally different values. About 2 years into our relationship, we were with his family family picking out a movie. A Korean movie was then suggested, and his dad said some pretty horrifying comments, essentially alluding to the fact that he didn't want to watch an Asian movie, but he said it in probably one of the most offensive ways you could possibly imagine. And by the way, for reference, I'm Asian, and I was sitting right there, and my ex said absolutely nothing in response to this. When I brought up the incident with his dad during our recent talks, he apologized, but immediately turned it around on me. He claimed that I should have told him right then that it upset me, and that he would have said something. He then got highly defensive and said that I didn't know him well enough to criticize his morals, and even claimed that it wasn't a lack of morals, just a temporary lack of courage. Now, during this talk, he also went on a side tangent, trying to make me see how unreasonable I was being for attacking his morals and making judgments on his beliefs, despite me not really knowing him. And by the way, his excuse for almost everything is that I should have communicated better. While I know communication is important, I did communicate about the driving, and I firmly believe I shouldn't have to explain to my significant other why a blatantly horrible comment being said right in front of me is just simply unacceptable, which then leads me on to the current issue at hand. I've tried to stop these talks and end contact completely 2 different times now, but both times when I explain my reasons, he treats it like a debate. He says, "No, I think we can work it out," and tells me that we don't know each other well enough to make that decision right now, even though we've been together for like 3 years, by the way. I also wanted to add that I'm not really the best debater or conversationalist with these types of topics, and I often jumble my words, resulting in me giving up entirely. But honestly, at this point, I'm just completely done. I don't see a future with him at all. I can't see him as someone who can provide for me or be there for me, and quite frankly, I don't have the patience or time to be in a relationship right now. In addition to this, I'm so young. I'm 20 years old, and so is he, and I don't want my young years to be spent like this, going back and forth with him. Because he refuses to accept my boundaries when we talk face to face, I am strongly considering just sending a final text message stating that it's over and that I'm cutting contact. So seriously, how do I structure a final text message just to make it clear that this is a unilateral decision and that it's over? And how do I handle the guilt of ending contact over text messaging when face-to-face conversations keep turning into debates? What should I do? Okay, dude, you gotta cut contact with this guy and just move on. Holy crap. This guy's holding on to the threads of a relationship he clearly ruined, and it's like, bro, you gotta get over yourself. Your dad's a horrifying piece of crap, and you're lazy. So yeah, dude, if I was in your shoes, I would block him and move on. Like, you don't owe him any other, like, conversations in person. Because clearly he's trying to hold on to something with this relationship, and, like, him trying to be like, oh, I don't agree to us breaking up. Like, dude, that already happened, and it's time to move on. Am I the jerk for changing my last name to my late father's name after my mom and my stepdad changed my last name to my stepdad's name when I was a kid without my consent? Because right now they are super pissed that I went ahead and did this, and at this point I'm not sure what else to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom and stepdad got married when I was about 7 years old and actually changed my last name from my late dad's name to my stepdad's name. And their rationale was that they wanted all of us to have the same family last name. My stepdad wanted his name to be used, and my mom was planning to take his. So without my consent, they changed mine. Now, technically speaking, they didn't need my consent, but also they just expected me to be happy about it. But for years, it made me sad and then angry that they changed my last name like that when dad was gone, and I was literally his only kid. It was argued over the years that I was their only kid too, and we were the living family who deserved to share a family name. Well, I turned 18 in October, and I had my name officially changed in April. And by that point, I was already living somewhere else, so I didn't have to listen to my mom and my stepdad complain every day. But we did sit down and talk 3 or 4 times already, and each time they told me I had shown a disgusting lack of respect for my stepdad, who according to them was the man who stepped up and raised me and lovingly gave me his name and tried to show me that I was his son. They said it was underhanded doing it without telling them first, even though I had talked about it for like 2 whole years beforehand. But their reaction those times made me keep it quiet until the process was like finished once I started it. They said it was really cruel of me to drop it completely, but I turned it back around on them and said it was cruel to drop my dad's name completely as well. Then it turned into a fight of who my dad really was, and for me, my dad is always my late dad, and my stepdad was never even close to being the same to me. They're now demanding that we talk again, but they're also still pissed off and hostile, so I'm not sure if I should or if we need to like have a real break from each other just to see if maybe they calm down, because at this point I'm frustrated and I'm so tired of this, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, it kind of seems like you've already made up your mind with these people because, dude, you've gone through the process and you changed your name. Which honestly, with the way they've been acting, I don't blame you for like stepping aside and being like, no, I am not going to keep that last name. I'm changing it back to my dad's name and that is it. And it's so funny to me that they're trying to be like, oh, well, this is who your dad really was. As if this is going to sway you in some way, but like, dude, what are we talking about? Your mom and stepdad are trying to change history. They're trying to act like, oh, he lovingly gave you his last name. He raised you and he made you into the man you are today. And it's like, there was no love involved in that. You literally changed it without asking me first. You did that without my consent. And sure, I'm a child at the time, but a conversation would have been good, not just expecting me to be happy about it. Like, dude, I would be so pissed as a kid. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This is completely inappropriate. Your mom and stepdad crossed some boundaries here, and the fact that they're still mad, in my opinion, is just proof that, yeah, they really want that control over you. And that, in my opinion, is super inappropriate. My ex called me 10 times after 3 years just to ask me one of the weirdest questions I've ever been asked in a long time. And at this point, I'm seriously just trying to make sense of this. Here's what happened. Okay, I genuinely want some outside opinions because this has confused me for a long time. My ex and I dated for about a year and we planned on getting married. But eventually, things fell apart because of family pressure, religious differences, and a lot of drama involved with our families. His dad caused a major conflict, and I felt overwhelmed and pressured into accepting a marriage proposal my parents suggested. Now, that proposal never went through, but by then, my ex had moved on and told me to stop contacting him because he had someone else in his life. And you know what? I respected that and I never reached out again. Well, 3 years later, I suddenly got around 10 calls from an unknown number. The first time I answered, I could hear someone driving, but nobody spoke, so I just hung up. But he then called several more times after that. Well, about an hour later, I answered again, and eventually I found out it was my ex. Now, instead of catching up with me, he immediately asked me if I'd been talking bad about him and showing people his pictures. Now, the weird part about it is that I had not done anything like that. In fact, I deleted all of his pictures like 3 years earlier, and I only had like 2 close friends who don't even know who he is in the first place. So I responded by saying, no, I would never do that. Why would I even talk about you? It's been like 3 years. He replied back by saying, oh, it's not that I don't believe you. I just wanted to make sure. And that was basically the whole conversation. I did most of the talking because he barely said anything. Before hanging up, I told him that I didn't have his number anymore, and I asked him to text it to me, but he refused to do that and said that he would call another time. So guys, I'm kind of left wondering, like, if he genuinely just wanted to clear up a rumor, why call me around 10 times from an unknown number instead of just sending me a text message? And if that wasn't the only reason, what do you think was going through his mind? Because I am super confused and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so weird because, like, holy crap. This guy clearly is in some hot water and he's contacting every ex that he can. Like, I bet you he probably screwed someone over really bad and he's like, wait, which one was it? So he's like scrambling and desperately going around to all of them and being like, you didn't share my pictures, did you? I really need to know if you did or not. And it's like, I don't even think about you anymore, bro. Like, what are we talking about? We haven't been together for, oh, that's right, 3 years. It's also incredibly weird that you did most of the talking. So I'm imagining this guy just asking, like, did you share my pictures around with anybody? And then just went radio silence as the sound of his car is in the background. Like, good lord, dude, what are we doing? Like, I haven't talked to you in so long and this is all you're gonna say? Not, hey, how's it going? I've got a quick question, or any kind of lead up. Just this deadpan question of like, answer question, please. Thank you. Like, bro, what a weirdo. I would block him immediately. I would never try to catch up or anything like that. I would be like, okay, this guy's creepy. I'm out of here. And in my opinion, I think that's exactly what the original poster should do, because this guy feels like a massive waste of time, and I think that's all the original poster is going to get out of this guy. Am I the jerk for taking back the birthday cake I brought to my sister's party for her kid? Because she literally refused to acknowledge the fact that I made it and instead lied to everybody that she actually bought it from a bakery. And honestly, that really offended me, and now I don't really know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my sister had a birthday party at her house last weekend. She told everyone not to worry about bringing food because she had everything covered. But you know what? I like to bake. So I spent most of Saturday making a homemade chocolate cake anyways. She then said thanks when I arrived and put it on the kitchen counter. Well, a little later, I overheard her telling a few relatives that the cake was from a local bakery because, according to her, she didn't want people asking for the recipe all night. Now, at first I laughed because I thought she was joking, but she just kept saying it every time someone complimented it. Eventually, one of my cousins actually came over and asked her which bakery she bought it from because they said, this is really good, like, where did you get it? Well, before my sister could answer, I said, well, actually I made it. She then rolled her eyes and said, does it really really matter? And you know what? In that moment, I told her, well, it kind of did, since I spent hours making it. She then shrugged and said, nobody cares where it came from. You're making a scene over dessert. And I gotta be completely honest here, that really annoyed me. So when the party started winding down, I packed up what was left of the cake and I just took it home. And for reference, there was still like about half of it left. Well, the next day she texted me saying that she planned on sending some slices home with people and that taking it back was childish. And even my mom also said I should have just left it because apparently it was a birthday gift once I bought it. But I don't think it's unreasonable to take back something after the person spends the whole night literally pretending they made it or just bought it themselves. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, I spent hours making this stupid cake just for my sister to like downgrade it and act like it's not a big deal. That really offended me, and at this point I don't know if I made a mistake. Okay, dude, in my opinion, if you're gonna act like that and be super ungrateful for me making a cake for your stupid kid, then holy crap, I'm definitely gonna take it back. Because all that's going on here right now is that your sister is just jealous. She is straight up jealous and doesn't want you getting any attention. She knows you're talented with baking, and she knows that a lot of people are gonna be asking about the recipe pretty much the entire night. And instead of just being like, oh, my sister made it, she's right over there, she wanted to be like, oh, I bought it from a bakery. Literally choosing to lie to everybody instead of giving you proper credit, which is crazy in my opinion. There's no reason to be this jealous, like who cares? And if anybody's making a big deal over this dessert and making a scene, it's your sister for lying about it. Like, why not just tell the truth and be like, yeah, my sister made it, she's actually right over there. Isn't she good at baking? Like, is it that hard to compliment your sibling for being good at something? Because instead your sister's acting like a jealous hag. Like, seriously, get a life. Like, why would you act like that? So no, dude, you have every right to take that cake back. She clearly didn't appreciate it, so why should she get to enjoy it? Like, in my opinion, if you're gonna get a gift of some kind, the least you can do is show some kind of credit and appreciation for what you got. And the fact that your sister did the opposite and just didn't give you any credit is more than enough justification to take the cake and run. My partner's entitled mother claims that she got me my job and that she should be praised and thanked for getting me a job. But aside from only telling me about the job itself, my partner's mom is absolutely delusional, and I'm honestly at my wit's end dealing with her weird attitude. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I took a huge step last year and I moved in with my long distance partner. My big focus when we moved into our apartment was securing a job. I'd been job hunting and sending in resumes and applications as early as a month before moving. But those of you who have been playing the job application game the past couple of years or so know exactly how bad the post-pandemic job market really is. I ended up finding and getting hired at a place within 6 weeks of moving into our apartment, which was really awesome. But how this came about has become quite a point of contention. I had originally considered the company that I know work for among the places I was applying, but I placed it lower on the list given they originally didn't list what they planned to pay, and I considered the commute to be too far to justify the gas. I was also worried it could be a waste of time, as too many businesses are claiming that they're desperately hiring nowadays, but then they never get back to you. About 3 weeks after moving in, my partner's parents stopped by. His mom was upset because she had stopped by the business before coming by and found it partially closed due to short staffing. She told me that I should go and apply. I told her I had considered and gave her the reasons why I had not yet applied, but decided to do so since it was clear they were actually in need of staff. Within 2 weeks of sending in my application, I was gotten back to, I was interviewed, and then I was hired. I ended up learning the pay and the benefits more than justified my commuting time, and I've been happily employed here ever since. But here's where the problems come in. My partner's mom constantly talks about how she got me that job. Anytime someone asked about my work in front of her, and I respond positively, she reminds me that I should thank her, because without her, I wouldn't be so happy or paid so well. I mean, she never lets it go. She never fails to bring it up, and it's been driving me crazy lately. And while I've asked my partner to please speak to her about it, she still hasn't pulled back. I had a very long day yesterday, and I ended up snapping at her at the dinner table when she brought it up yet again. She said to me that I don't thank her enough for getting me that nice job. But I told her she did not get me that job. She did not work through my previous jobs, build my skills, or compile my resume for me. She didn't fill out my application. She she didn't go to my interview or go to my training, that was literally all on me. I told her I appreciate that she let me know they were understaffed and renewed my interest in applying, but the person who gets me my job and my money is me and me alone. Well, after I said that, she is now very unhappy and has called me disrespectful and says that I just have no respect for older people. My partner agrees with me that she's been pushing it too far, but wants me to try and make peace. But I honestly don't think that I should have to. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Am I justified for calling her out and saying exactly what I did? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to do. You are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is absolutely obnoxious, and the fact that she's trying to take credit for you getting that job is so atrocious. Like, her frequency of reminding you in front of everybody has almost become like this weird, aggressive form of control where she's trying to put herself above you for some weird reason. Because you've got it right, she didn't do anything to get you that job. The only thing she did was point out that they're looking for people to work there, and that was literally it. So sure, she can take credit for tipping you off, but like seriously, who would take credit for that? She's trying to equate that small act of like generosity as some kind of like groundbreaking moment where she can be like, ooh, you owe me so much. Now you have to respect me because I got one over on you. Like, that's really the attitude I'm getting from this lady, and it's really obnoxious. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is 100% at fault, and she didn't do a thing to help you out in the slightest. So I don't blame you for correcting her and putting a stop to this once and for all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm thinking about calling off my wedding, all because of my fiance's comments about me bringing my son to live with me. Because right now, I'm completely devastated, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I lived in America up until I was 15 years old, and then my mom sent me to live with my dad in Guyana. I was originally supposed to live there until I was 18 years old, but I ended up coming back to New York when I was 24. During my time in Guyana, I had a son with my ex-girlfriend. I moved back to New York when he was 2 years old, and his mom and I decided it's best for him to stay with her in Guyana. It's better for him to know his culture and stay grounded. I have been back there many times to see him, and he's come to stay here with me as well. In the end, he was always supposed to come here to live with me, and this is where my fiance comes in. We've been together for 2.5 years, and she has met my son. I've always been very vocal about the fact that he's going to come and live with me, and this year is the year where he will permanently be moving here. He's going to come in the summer and then start his first year of middle school. Well, I started to notice her not being on board with the whole idea last year, which is right when I was looking for houses. I was thinking about moving somewhere nearby in New Jersey due to a better school system, but my fiance disagreed. There have been other pretty minimal things here and there since, but she's never outright said that he shouldn't come here, but has said things that heavily implied it. However, each time I ask her to further explain, it would end with the fact that she wants him here. Well, our wedding is literally 3 Saturdays from now, and yesterday she said explicitly that she does not want him to move in with us. We started arguing about something else that was pretty minimal, but it escalated to a bigger discussion about our future, and that's when she said that she prefers if he remains with his mom. Her main reasoning was that she didn't want to fill in as a stepmom with no other mom present. She would feel so odd with having him around pretty much early on in our marriage, and she feels like we should wait until he's older, or she wants him to not come at all and just come for vacations. From day one, I have said that my son is going to live with me, even going as far as giving her a time frame. I always said that I want him here right before he starts middle school. I've said this for 2.5 years. If she felt this way the whole time, then why not say something earlier? Why wait until only weeks before our wedding? I'm genuinely thinking about calling it off, and I need advice on my options here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is honestly so unfair to you, it really does suck. So the entire time, like the entire time she's known you, she has had these thoughts and these doubts in the back of her mind, but she hasn't said anything about it. Like, you literally could not have been more clear that this is something you want to happen. And now what, 3 Saturdays from your wedding, she's now being like, well, wait a second, let's not have your son move here. It's like, what are you talking about? It is way too late for that. If she really had an issue with this, she should have brought this up, I don't know, years ago. Or maybe moved on to somebody else that could share a goal that she agrees with. But to silently go along with this, only to then drop this on someone who clearly wants this, is honestly insane to me. And that is seriously a massive red flag. I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be looking at changing things around big time, because this is a huge betrayal of trust. You thought you had somebody who was on board with your plans, or at least someone who shared the same goals as you in some kind of way, but boy, does it really seem like she lied to you just to get this far. So hopefully this all works out for you and you're able to find some kind of solution, because legitimately what you're describing right now sounds absolutely awful. I caught my friend kissing my husband's neck while I was asleep, and now that I've confronted my husband about this, he's claiming that nothing bad happened and that I'm blowing things way out of proportion. And at this point, I seriously now don't know what to do. Okay, so my husband and I have been married for 2 years and together for 3. This just happened about 5 hours ago, and I'm not sure how to feel or what to believe. For context, my friend comes over to drink and hang out every once in a while, and when she does, we let her sleep in the guest room so she doesn't drive home drunk. Last night, we all decided to watch a movie in bed. I fell asleep after maybe an hour, and at 4 a.m., I feel them both move off of the bed, so it woke me up. My husband said he went to go get water, and my friend said that she had to use the bathroom. After they got back onto the bed, I was awake, but my eyes were closed. I noticed the movie got louder, and then I heard a kissing noise. I turned over slowly, and I saw my friend caressing my husband from behind and giving him kisses on his neck while he watched the movie. Once she realized that I saw her, she froze, quickly moved her hands, and we stared at each other for a good 30 seconds. Eventually, I asked her what was going on, and she swore it was nothing and that nothing happened. My husband initially said the same, but after about an hour and a half of asking for the truth, he told me that he didn't know the kisses were for him and that he froze and didn't know what to do. When I asked him why it took him so long to tell me the truth, he said it was because he was afraid of how my friend would react. I don't know if I should believe him or not. She kissed him twice that I know of, and he has a history of lying to me. My friend was quiet the whole time I was trying to get the truth out of my husband, and eventually I told her to leave my house. She left, and my husband got upset at me for being mad at him for what happened. Personally, I think he shouldn't have let it get to that point in the first place. He said that she caught him by surprise, but eventually confessed that she first rubbed him on his back and told him it's okay, and then after that, she sat directly behind him, hugged him from behind, and started to kiss his neck multiple times. He said that she was probably just comforting him because she noticed that he was upset because him and I have been having some issues lately. But I feel like they both have fault. She was insanely wrong for doing that, and he was wrong for letting her do that. He says that I'm messed up for getting mad at him and not her, which is not true. I'm honestly mad at the both of them. I'm not sure how to go about this. Part of me wants to call it quits, but the other half of me feels bad for not believing him. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I think you need to say the quiet part out loud in my opinion, because it really seems like your husband is cheating on you. I don't believe for a second that this is something that just happened suddenly in your bed. Like, I'm pretty sure this has been going on for a while, and he's definitely been a willing participant in all of this. Like, I know for a fact that if a woman started kissing up on me, and I had a girlfriend who I loved and appreciated, I would recoil from her immediately and be like, wait a second, what are you doing? Get away from me. I would make a massive fuss and say, you've got to go. This is not okay, and you've crossed a serious boundary. But the husband in this story didn't do anything like that. He didn't even push away from her when she started rubbing up against him. Like, he just sat there and allowed it to happen. So it kind of makes me believe that he's used to this kind of treatment from this friend specifically. And that's honestly awful. It makes me wonder what they do together when you fall asleep inside of that guest room. This all seems super sketchy, and in my opinion, a massive red flag you cannot ignore. I mean, he even tried to say, oh, I didn't stop her because I was afraid of how she would react. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Your wife is literally sleeping right next to you on your bed. So hopefully this all works out for you, because this honestly sounds awful, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. My mom feels entitled to my clothing all the time, constantly calling me selfish if I don't give her all of my clothing whenever she wants it, while also saying that I'm gonna be a terrible roommate and friends to anybody in the future. And I'm honestly so done with the way she treats me that I'm already planning on cutting her out of my life when I get old enough. And I honestly can't wait for that day to come sooner than later. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female, and my mom, who lives in Oregon, had a falling out this December, and recently she came to visit me and my dad in Texas. I was very worried about this because of her and I having the fight, but she seemed to regret what she did and was trying to be careful around me for the first day that she visited, which I really did appreciate. The second day, she asked to borrow some leggings or shorts from me to go play tennis, and I initially said no, as I buy all my clothes myself, and I'm pretty protective over my leggings in particular, which are pretty expensive, and I don't like getting dirty or sweaty. However, she begged me, so I gave her a pair of shorts to use. She said they were too short, and she needed leggings because of the cold outside. So I found a pair that I would maybe be okay with her using as long as she took care of them. She tried them on and told me that they were too short as well and that she needed leggings that go all the way down to her ankle instead of the mid-calf. I argued with her and said that I wasn't willing to let her borrow the ones I own like that, and then she started yelling at me, and my dad did as well to back her up, saying that I'm selfish and I need to hand them over. Well, I told her no, and that I had given her plenty of options, and that she should just choose from those, and that it wasn't my fault that she hadn't packed any with her. She and my dad then said that I should have let her look through my closet and pick out whatever she wanted, and that everyone, such as my future roommates and friends, are going to hate me because I was too selfish. I just walked away to my room to cool off, and there I found a pair of fleece-lined leggings, which she initially accepted, but she heard the tone of my voice, which wasn't sunshine and rainbows, due to her being so rude to me right before. She said that I was being too rude to her and that she didn't need the leggings anyways because she could just wear the pair that she had worn on the plane the day before. I was so incredibly insulted by this because if she had a pair, then why ask me for one? We were both pretty upset, and she calmed down a little bit and said she wanted to talk to me about how selfish I was being. I told her it was not the right time as I had to get to work, and when I went to go, she then said an awful swear word to me, and I honestly couldn't believe it. She said this to her own daughter, who she was trying to make it up to. My dad refused to drive me to work, so I went to bike over. As I was leaving, my mom decided to put in one last jab and told me to take off the shirt I was wearing, which she had given me because it didn't suit her. She grabbed a pair of scissors and said she was going to cut it up, to which I laughed and took off the shirt. My dad realized how crazy she was acting and tried to calm her down. She asked why I was laughing, and I said to her, "And you think that you've changed? That is honestly a joke." Anyways, I changed my shirt and was halfway out the door when she yelled at me some more. I eventually then left for work and got out of there. But unfortunately, this is not even the worst of my mom. But once I'm old enough, I absolutely have the plan to cut her out of my life. Yeah, your mom sounds absolutely unhinged. Like, her behavior was completely unhinged. She quite literally tried to steal clothing from you, all under the guise of like, oh, but I need a pair of leggings. But it's like she already brought leggings with her. Why she try to take yours and use yours instead of her own? Like, that really is weird to me, and I would be just as upset as the original poster in this situation. Like, she's literally just doing this, it seems like, to get a rise out of you. And that is so annoying to deal with. So truly, I hope everything works out for you in the end. I really hope you don't have to deal with your mom in this capacity very soon, because the way she's acting and treating you is so self-centered. And in my opinion, your mom and your dad absolutely suck. My husband tries to warn our neighbors about their landscaping, but gets told to mind his own business several times. So my husband decides to maliciously comply, allowing them to practically ruin their yard and get in trouble with the city and the HOA. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my husband is pretty handy. Prior to COVID, he had flipped several houses as a fun side gig. It's what he really loves to do, and he became very familiar with a ton of city codes. During COVID, it seems everyone was suddenly buying houses to flip out of boredom, and prices skyrocketed, so he put that on hold. So then he started doing household repairs and upgrades, building fences and stuff like that all around the neighborhood as well. To get a better understanding of the neighborhood HOA bylaws and whatnot, he joined the HOA Architectural Committee, though he learned all there was to know about what was allowed and what was not, how the processes worked, and how to work around certain things. So, long story short, my husband was very knowledgeable in what to do and not do, and various processes with the neighborhood and the city. Our next door neighbor decided they were going to start landscaping their backyard, and they, I guess, planned to make theirs as similar to our backyard as possible. The problem was that despite being next door neighbors, our land was quite different. For one thing, behind our house was a bunch of brush and pine trees, maybe 3 to 4 feet from the lake that's at the back of the house. We didn't have to do a whole lot to clear the area, but the brush on their property was about 1/3 of their yard, and I'd say it was about 10 feet from the water, give or take. Also, the way the houses on our street are, the land naturally made like a valley, where the house to our right is at the top, and we're in the middle, and the next two houses are at the bottom before it quickly rises again. The first thing the neighbors did was cut down all the trees in their backyard, and they were not small trees either, but rather 4-story tall trees or more. My husband and neighbor were talking about the backyard plans when my husband casually mentioned that he was surprised the city gave him permission to cut down so many trees. For reference, in our city, city, you had to have an arborist give permission to cut down any trees that were over a certain height. The neighbor first said it wasn't the city's business what he did with his backyard. Then he told my husband to mind his own business, which is like, okay, fair enough. Then they started putting up the retaining wall to bring it up to level with our property, which would have been about 7 to 8 feet tall. Basically, they were just stacking a bunch of cinder blocks. So my husband uneasily asked if their landscapers had ever done a retaining wall like that, and if the city approved it. The city says that if a retaining wall is over 5 feet tall, you need a structural engineer to come out. Again, the neighbor said it wasn't any of the city's business what he did to his yard, while also reminding my husband to mind his own business. Well, while they're filling up the backyard to bring their levels to ours, the landscapers are dumping all the dirt, gravel, and sand into the street, and they were blocking a little over half of the road. Several of the neighbors who had trucks would just hop the curb, but other neighbors with smaller cars were mad. Before my neighbor could ask if they could put the dirt and stuff in their driveway instead of the road like everybody else, my neighbor went off on my husband and told him to get lost in not so nice of words. So we thought, okay then. My husband let them continue working and didn't say a word as they started constructing a 10-foot tall fence, which was against HOA regulations, as fences could not be taller than 6 feet. Between them starting construction 6 days before 7 a.m. and then blocking the road, I guess someone had finally had enough. The next thing I know, city officials were out there putting a giant sign in the yard saying all construction was to be halted until further notice. Now, let me tell you something. It was not us who did this, but my husband found out through the architectural committee that someone had complained about the noise and the road blockage to the HOA, who came out to investigate, saw everything that they had done, and then reported them to the city. They got a hefty fine for every tree stump the city official found. The structural engineer said the retaining wall was not sound and it had to be redone, and it had to have regular inspection during its build. The HOA also told them that not only did they have to take down the 10-foot tall fence, but as they did not get prior approval, and because it was not an appropriate design, the HOA was also going to hit them with a hefty fine. Initially, the neighbor came to us for tattling, but we told them it wasn't us, as nothing they did affected us in any kind of way. For reference, our kids are early risers, so even starting before 7 o'clock didn't bother us. My husband then said that he tried to warn them that this would happen, but the neighbor told him to get lost and mind his business, so he did. Landscaping had started on Black Friday and was shut down for 3 weeks, while I guess they got things sorted out with the city and the HOA. And as of now, their backyard is still not finished. Wow, this is really funny to me, because if the neighbors had just listened to the husband of this story, then they literally could have avoided all of this trouble. But instead, they decided to be hostile and really weird to this guy, and that's just really not fair. Like, this guy really was genuinely trying to help out. He was trying to step up to the plate and say, hey, just so you know, I know a lot about all of this and you might be doing it wrong. And I know if I was doing construction on my backyard and my neighbor's like, hey, wait a second, the city might have a problem with this, I would stop what I was doing like immediately and be like, oh, okay, let me go figure that out real quick. And I can imagine their fines are probably very hefty from the HOA and the city. Like, both of those organizations probably do not play around, especially the HOA. So good for you and your husband for maliciously complying and basically stepping back and letting these people ruin their lives, because they absolutely deserve it after the way they talked to you and your husband. An entitled Karen calls the police on me because she doesn't like the fact that I go out at what she considers weird times. She even goes as far as claiming that I'm selling illegal substances around the neighborhood and that I must be stopped at all costs. But once she was proven wrong and shown that she was completely lying, she slapped me in the face in retaliation, resulting in her getting arrested for slapping a kid. Here's what happened. So I'm a 16-year-old from Serbia, and I live in the building next to my grandmother's. Our buildings are divided into several buildings. Strange, but each entrance functions like its own building, as if we only share walls, and you can't exit one entrance to get to another without leaving the building. Now, I live in the entrance facing another building. If I go around it, the other entrance leads to my grandmother's apartment. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away 8 years ago, leaving my grandmother alone in her apartment. My parents, back then when this happened several years ago, saw one empty room and asked my grandmother if we could turn it into my private room because I needed privacy. Now, my grandmother was thrilled with the idea. After discussing it with me, we made the room. Since I followed my grandmother's rules and helped her, I didn't spend all my time at her place. Instead, I switched between apartments as needed. For example, I'd I'd come home from school, leave my things, and then go to my grandmother's house to sleep. Then I would return home in the morning to have breakfast. I had a sort of routine for when I went where with an accuracy of plus or minus an hour. Now, just to reiterate, I live in the entrance facing another building. If I go around it, the other entrance leads to my grandmother's apartment. Directly in front of my entrance is another entrance, and above it on the window, at least 70% of the time when I went out, there was an elderly woman. She always looked at me somewhat grumpily as I passed by, and sometimes I would glance at her, but I had headphones on and often wore a hoodie, so I just ignored her. When I had the second shift, I usually got home at about 8:20, and then I went to my grandmother's house at around 10:30, even though sometimes there would be exceptions. Now, that woman was almost always there, but it never really bothered me. I mean, why would it? I only saw her for maybe 20 seconds a day. Well, once when I was leaving my house to go to my grandmother's without headphones or a hoodie, she finally said something that I honestly will never forget. She looks at me and says, "You're leaving to get high again." I looked at her and I said, "What?" She said to me, "Every day you go out with a hoodie on your head in the dead of night, and I can clearly see what you're doing." I then looked at her and I said, "What do you think I'm doing?" And she responded by saying that I'm dealing some kind of substance. She then demanded to know what I had in my backpack. But I said to her, "Well, not that it's any of your business, but I have a laptop and equipment." But this Karen was not having it. She looked at me and said, "I think it's illegal substances. Open it and let me see it right now." But I refused to do it. I said to her, "Leave me alone," and I just walked away. Now, the next day, she was waiting for me outside the entrance. She said to me, "What's in that bag?" I looked at her and I said, "You are a psychopath." She then said that if I don't tell her, she's gonna call the police. So I responded by saying, "Call whoever you want. I'm out of here." And I left while she was still yelling at me. The next day, 2 police officers were waiting for me outside the door with the Karen. The Karen then said, "That's him. He's the local dealer." I looked at them and I said, "What is going on?" The first police officer said that they received a report that illegal substance trafficking was happening here. I then looked at the second police officer and I said, "Is this for real?" And they confirmed that even though it seemed absurd, they had to check it out. I then just said to him, "Okay, well, can you search me and let me go then?" The first police officer said, "We'll search you, but we won't let you go immediately because the lady said she saw you dealing." I said to them, "That lady is crazy. But you know what? Do what you have to do. I just want to get this over with." The first police officer searched me while the Karen was yelling about me being a dealer. The second officer asked me how old I was and if I had an ID, and I said to him, "I literally went to the building next door. I don't even have a wallet. Can I go to my apartment to get it? I'll even leave my backpack with a laptop as collateral that I'll return." The first officer then said, "Do you live here?" And I said yes, and that's when he said he'll accompany me to my apartment, but he won't enter. Well, when I returned to my apartment, my parents asked what I had forgotten. I said, "Can you please get my wallet with my ID inside? I want to buy some juice," which, by the way, I really did want to do that later. I returned to the police officer and my parents hadn't noticed anything quite yet. We returned outside and I showed my ID, which was valid. The second police officer explained that there's nothing in the backpack and that I had caused them no problems. The Karen then said, "I know he has some substances. I saw him." I then said to her, Where did you see me?" And at this point, the Karen made a mistake, pointing to a place under the cameras. I then said to her, "Okay, when was that?" The Karen then gave the exact date that she thought she saw me doing something sketchy. So I looked at her and I said, "Great, we can check the cameras." Realizing that her plan backfired, the Karen did the only sensible thing. She slapped me in the face. Well, to make a long story short, the first police officer handcuffed her and put her in the car while the Karen was screaming out loud. Now, for a small detail about me, I have a lot of pimples. So if you slap me, I ended up bleeding a little bit, which made it look a lot worse than it actually was, because honestly, it barely felt like a slap. The first police officer went and informed my parents. They came out and my mom wiped away the blood while my dad talked to the police. He asked the officer if he could send me to wash up, and the first police officer sent me away to do exactly that. Karen was convicted of assaulting a minor and misusing the police. Since we managed to hush up the whole story from the neighbors by some miracle, no one actually saw anything. The Karen received a punishment and a stern warning. Now, this Karen didn't go to jail, but she did get a good enough warning that if she did anything worse to me, then she would get a much worse punishment. But even after that incident, she could still be seen at her usual spot next to a window, glaring at me every time I walked by. Yeah, that entitled Karen was clearly just trying to cause problems. She saw some young kid coming in and out at hours that she didn't agree with, so she assumed the worst and accused you of something awful awful. Like she really tried to convince the police that you were doing something so sketchy, and that part alone is seriously something that would have driven me nuts. She wasted 2 police officers' time, and then when she was cornered because she knew she messed up, she slapped this kid in the face out of some kind of like weird retaliation. I kind of wish she got a bigger punishment, but I guess because she was old, she probably was able to get away with it to some extent. So good for you for standing up for yourself and not taking this garbage for a second, because this entitled Karen was completely out of line for hitting you like that, because you didn't do anything wrong and you definitely did not deserve that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband is dragging his feet to move with me for my new job, and after talking with him about this, as well as trying to find some kind of deadline or even some kind of compromise in some kind of way, I'm now at a point where I seriously don't even think he wants to be in the city we're gonna move to. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I are both 33 years old, and we've been together for more than 6 years. We met in a city on the East Coast of the United States, and we're both in training for our respective niche careers at the time. A few years in, my husband finished his training, but procrastinated at finding the next training position. He ended up with only one offer across the country on the West Coast because all other options were filled by the time he started his search. Now, I was mad because I have been pushing him for about a year to search for a job, which is the normal timeline in his field, and I ended up having to find ways to continue my training on the West Coast to stay with him. Well, it wasn't easy, but I did it by working fully remotely. We agreed then that when I'm done with my training and need to move for jobs that I like, he'll have to pay back by moving with me. It is much harder to find a job in my field, and most people actually ended up giving up on this career, but I got lucky, and I finally found a job this year. Unfortunately, despite trying very hard, it is not on the West Coast, and is not in a big city as my husband would prefer. I still expected that he would move with me as we agreed upon this, even if it means switching to a remote job, which would still be in the same career, but just not as fun as an in-person job would be. From the day I got the precious job offer till now, he hasn't shown any hints of being happy for me, and was in fact visibly and verbally unhappy with the outcome. He kept talking about other opportunities that I was interviewing for, and browsing for jobs or housing around those places, and he was dragging his feet on his job search around my offer. He was more disappointed than me when I eventually got rejected by those better alternatives, and of course not comforting me as a result. Now, I have accepted the offer, and he's still not engaging in my excitement for the new job, and continued to nitpick the area that we're gonna move to. He would say stuff like, "The restaurants are not good enough. I don't like the grocery store and nothing's happening here." And I've gotta be honest, this has been giving me a lot of stress lately. 2 days ago, he came up with the idea of negotiating with his current company to switch to mostly remote work. And this is an idea that I've been bringing up since before my job was finalized, but he kept saying that it was impossible. But now that I've accepted the offer, he finally seriously considered it, I guess. He planned to ask his boss about this in their meeting today, and have been talking about this with me every 2 hours. The strange thing is that he initially proposed 1 week in person and 3 weeks remote, but every time he brought it up, the in-person time increased. In the evening, he weirdly asked me how much my father was away for work when I was young. We are planning to have kids as soon as possible, and he knew my father being absent was the source of problems in my family. I told him it wasn't about the amount of time my father was away, but that he did nothing to make up for it when he was around. Well, as nighttime came around, his proposal progressed to 2 weeks in person and 2 weeks remote work, because that will be more likely accepted by his boss. I told him that 50-50 is a lot of time away from me, and he should treat this as a negotiation and not worry about what the boss wants, but rather what he wants. He somehow couldn't tell me what he wants and said that he has to think, with him grabbing a notebook and starting to write. Now, that is normal of him, so I just didn't push it and I just went to sleep. Well, today at noon, I was napping and I was woken up by him an hour before his meeting with his boss. He told me he is thinking about some options. The first would be 1 week and then 2 weeks, because this would have the smallest impact on other people's schedule. And the second was a 1.5 week and 2.5 week schedule, with his same rationale being about other people. I then interrupted him and asked why he is still talking about other people's needs. Like, what happened to the 1 week, 3 week schedule? He said that's the next option. And I asked him what he wants again, but he just fell silent. Well, at that point, I finally exploded. I said to him if he doesn't want to move, he can stay and we can get a divorce. I continued to repeat my complaints about the stress that he gave me, reminded him about our agreement, and told him that his progressive increase in time away from me in his proposals made me feel like he doesn't want to be with me. He argued that he is not increasing, but I reminded him what happened yesterday. He argued it was just 2 days more, to which I was like, what are you talking about? And I seriously just didn't even know what to say. He also said he didn't realize that's what he was signaling. I asked him why he's only talking about this with me right before the meeting, especially while I'm napping. He said he'll go delay the meeting, and I just suppressed the crazy amount of question marks that are about to explode in my brain. I told him I don't care anymore, and I pushed him to just get the meeting done. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of at a loss right now. It doesn't seem anything I said got through to him at all, and I still don't know what in the world he wants. What should I do? Wow, it really seems like your husband just doesn't care about your career, or he's just not willing to compromise and move with you for your job, which, by the way, is incredibly unfair. I'm sure you've gone through a lot of compromises on your end just to make sure he can get his training done and all this other stuff. And this is especially hurtful because you guys agreed to this in the first place. Like you said, hey, if I get a job offer and we gotta move, you're coming with me, right? And he said, oh yeah, sure, I'll definitely do that. But like, are you gonna do that? Like, is that even gonna happen? Because right now it really seems like he's just completely lying. Like, now that he's faced with the reality of having to move for this job, he suddenly is like, oh man, these restaurants suck and nothing happens there, which has only prompted his question about how much time he can spend away from you. And honestly, that is just so disappointing. The original poster went on to say that if he doesn't move, then she is definitely making sure she's not having kids with him. She's already accepted the job, so she doesn't really have much of a choice in that regard. And honestly, I completely agree with her. Having kids in an environment like this sounds like an absolute train wreck, and I seriously think that would just make things more complicated in this scenario. So hopefully this works out, and hopefully your husband is able to come to his senses and at least pretend like he wants to support you in some kind of way. Because right now he's being very selfish, and this is really not fair for you and your career. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that if she pays for her sister's college, then I will stop favoring her younger sister with my money? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna try and be as clear as possible. My mother had a fund that was supposed to be for both of the grandchildren. She told me multiple times it was for both of the kids. She also informed the girls that they have money, but she unfortunately passed away unexpectedly. My oldest daughter was the only one on the fund, and it is legally hers. But here's the thing, she didn't share it with her sister, and she now has a huge head start in life with it. Due to this money, she has been able to go to college debt-free and is going to buy a house soon. My husband and I have been scrambling to give as much money as possible to our youngest daughter since she really did get screwed over. Even with all of our help, she still needs to take out student loans. My youngest daughter is working while in college, and she found a student job that gives free housing. But the issue is that she needs a car for it. So my husband and I are going to buy her a car because turning down this job will result in a ton of extra debt for her. Well, my oldest daughter found out about us getting the car and she is angry. She's upset with us favoring our younger daughter and that she never got a car from us. But I pointed out that she doesn't need help financially at all. We argued for a while and I had had enough. I told her that if she pays for her sister's college, then I will stop favoring her sister with my money. Well, my older daughter then called me a jerk, and she isn't responding to anything that I send to her. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for the things that I said? What should I do? I don't think you're favoring your younger daughter at all. It sounds like your older daughter is literally working the system and taking money that's supposed to be for both her and her younger sibling. And sure, the fund only mentioned the older daughter, but it was very obviously expressed verbally from the grandmother while she was still alive that that money was supposed to be for both daughters, that it was not supposed to just go to one of them. And that part in and of itself is honestly so disappointing. Like, the older daughter absolutely knows about this, I would imagine, and she knew that this money would go to her and her sister. And from the sounds of it, it really seems like a lot of money was available to be used. So to that end, I understand where the original poster's coming from, where they're like, wait a second, our other daughter is getting completely screwed out of money. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your older daughter is being very selfish for not splitting the money, even though she knew where this money was supposed to go. Like, in my opinion, it would be different if that money was specifically meant for the older daughter, and like that's the only person that really was supposed to have it. But in this case, it really was supposed to be shared. So for her to run off and be like, oh man, I can't believe you're getting her a car, all the while she's got all all this money to work with and has a giant head start in life. That is completely unfair, and I don't blame you for reprimanding her in the way that you did. Am I the jerk for reporting a local homeless woman to the police who stole and destroyed my food? Because right now, my girlfriend and my friends are calling me a jerk, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm from South Asia, and a few years ago, I moved to Australia for my master's degree. I completed it last year and have been working a full-time IT job ever since. Since I don't like grocery shopping, I rely on meal services, which provide you weekly meals and groceries on one day of the week. That way, you can cook and eat them anytime during the week. Usually, I get my box delivered to me anywhere between 3 to 6 in the morning, and I go and get it as soon as I can. This time, I got my delivery at around 8 o'clock as there were some delays, and I went to take it at 8:15 before I could leave for work at 9 o'clock. However, when I reached downstairs, my grocery box was nowhere to be found. I asked the reception of my building, and they said they saw someone keeping it, but didn't notice anything after that, since the receptionist was an acquaintance. He offered to let me see the security camera footage to see what happened to it. In the footage, we saw a lady who came to use the lobby bathroom from outside, who then took the box when no one was looking and sneaked away with it. The receptionist asked me to contact the police just to lodge a complaint, and so I did. While talking to them, one of the other receptionists came back and asked what had happened, and as the footage was still on the screen, recognized the lady taking the box. She was a frequent visitor here to use the washroom. Now, on my street a little down the road is a homeless woman's shelter, and he told me that he knows she lives there and offered to come with me to see if she was anywhere near there so I could get my box. Well, we get there to find the lady sitting outside the shelter with my box, trying to poke her finger from the side of the tape area to see what's inside. When we confronted her, she said that it was hers, but we said we have contacted the cops and we'll point them to her if she doesn't return it. She seemed like she was under the influence, and angrily she just picked up the box and threw it at us, which caused it to open up and some of my ingredients fell out onto the floor, and she started shouting profanities at us as well as telling us to leave. I picked up what was left of my box and I went back to my building. I then proceeded to complete the report with the police and inform them of the situation, and also explained that we have footage of her stealing it. A few days later, I found out that they reached out to her and had taken her to the station, which had also caused the homeless shelter authorities to ban her from staying there ever again. And I thankfully also got a refund from the food company for my items. Now, when my girlfriend and my friends found out, they all started saying so much garbage and called me a jerk for reporting her. They are all Australian, so I don't know if this is some kind of like cultural thing, but I felt like I was justified in what I did. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your friends and your girlfriend are completely wrong. You did not do anything wrong, and honestly, the fact that they want you to just let this kind of slide underneath a rug is insane to me and just absolutely inappropriate. Like, let's look at the facts real quick. This homeless woman not only stole your belongings, but she also destroyed it, while also shouting obscenities at you and telling you to get lost. Meanwhile, she's the person who comes into the lobby to use the washroom every single day. Like, this is so backwards, it's not even funny. So I completely think you're justified in calling the cops, because if this can happen to you, it can literally happen to anybody. But don't get me wrong, I have a lot of sympathy for this homeless woman and her situation, but if you steal other people's property, then you absolutely deserve to get the consequences that come your way. That, in my opinion, is not the answer, and the fact that your friends are trying to justify it and be like, oh man, why would you do that? That is insane to me, and that just doesn't make any sense. So no, of course you're not the jerk. You are absolutely justified in calling the cops on someone who stole from you, and anyone who could possibly say otherwise is completely misguided. An entitled jerk demands that I give up my seat on a coach that I was taking across the country, claiming that he wants it more and that him and his wife deserve my seats no matter what. But I decided that enough was enough, so I stood up for myself and I shut this jerk down right where he stood. And I've honestly never felt better about putting somebody in their place in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a couple of months ago, and I was on my way to London and I took a night coach. For those unaware, a coach is like a luxury bus with seat belts, leather seats, Wi-Fi, plugs, toilets, and a lot of stuff like that. Well, like most coaches, you have to book tickets in advance, but you can pay extra to reserve a seat. Any other seat is first come, first serve. Where I get on is the first stop of the coach's route to London, so it's free reign to pick any seat not marked as reserved. I then go all the way back and choose to sit at the emergency exit. It has the most legroom, and there's some distance from the seat in front of me, so I can put the tray down and not break my neck watching a film on my tablet. Now, this was a 10-hour journey, and I was enjoying my time watching some films on my tablet and munching on some snacks for the journey. I'm so used to traveling on buses and coaches, so this honestly wasn't anything new. Well, 3 hours in, at this point it's now midnight, and the coach arrives at a station to let a lot of people on. At the time, I didn't notice that someone was trying to talk to me. It was a mix of me being focused on the film, as well as my headphones being noise canceling. He gave me a slight shake to get my attention, which he did. I took off my headphones and he asked me, "Can I sit there, please?" Now, I thought he wanted to sit next to me, and he asked me because my rucksack and my shopping bag was on the other seat. I'm not antisocial, so I wasn't going to say no, but I decided to ask just to clarify. I said to him, "Oh, do you want me to move my stuff for you to sit down?" This guy looks at me and says, "No, I mean, can I have both of these seats for me and my wife?" I looked at him and I said, "No, because I'm currently sitting here." He said to me, "Yes, but we want to sit there, so give me these seats." I looked at him and I said, "You're not being funny, man, but I also want to sit here. That's the reason I sat here." But this guy just seriously wasn't getting it. He said to me, "I know, but I want to sit there now, so move please." I asked him where I was supposed to sit then, and he told me the seats in front of us are free. So I responded by saying, "Well, there you go, you can sit there then." But this guy responded by saying, "But that's not where I want to sit." I then responded quite bluntly. I said to him, "Look, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to move from where I am just because you want to sit here with your wife, okay? If you reserve these seats, then fair enough. I would absolutely move, but these seats aren't reserved. So no, if you'll excuse me, I'm not going to move." At that point, I put my headphones back on, and that was the end of that. I saw him walk down to the front of the coach, no idea if he went to complain to the driver or what, but I didn't care as I knew I was in the right. Sure, I was quite rude at the end, but I wasn't going to give up my spot just because someone asked me to when I had already settled down in the seat. A couple minutes later, I did see him and his wife come back up to me, but they walked past and sat behind me. And what's funny is that they glared at me as they walked by. Now, it should be worth mentioning that he didn't have any visible or physical disabilities. If he needed legroom for disabled access, he should have said something. But even then, that's what the front of the coach is for. It is literally for disabled access. In fact, him and his wife were way skinnier than me, and I'm a pretty fat guy. So for the last 6 hours, they just sat behind me. I didn't hear what they were saying, but a part of me jokingly thought that they were planning to take over my seats if I went up and used the bathroom. But I never did, so thankfully I never found out. Wow, seriously? Like, what is wrong with people? Like, they could have gone about asking for this seat in several other ways. They could have asked nicely, they could have looked around for any other seats, they could have done anything other than the way they approached this. Because for this guy to walk up and be like, "Oh, you've got to move, I want that seat right now," like, that's obnoxious, and there's no reason to act like that. Especially when there's seats literally all around the original poster, and there's plenty of spots that they could have sat and had no problems. So good for the original poster for standing up for themselves. Because personally, based on the way that guy was acting, I don't think you were rude at all, and I honestly think that guy absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Everyone at my job got mad when I took charge simply because no one else would do it. But as a result, they all complained to corporate, stating that I was rude and nasty in the time of crisis, and that I was not kind in the face of disaster. So I decided to maliciously comply by not stepping up to the plate when another accident happened, resulting in all those people who complained about me getting fired. Here's what happened. So about 14 years ago, I worked for a major petroleum company in Indianapolis. Over my 4 years there, I applied myself, and I gained enough knowledge to be more knowledgeable than most of the senior guys. Well, one day stuff hit the fan, and we were looking at a potential major spill because the packing in a pump had failed. Nobody was doing anything, and I'm the kind of person who likes to take charge, so I just started barking orders. Now, you have to understand, this would have been an EPA nightmare, so there was no time to be nice. Well, the other employees went and complained, and I was called into the manager's office and was told about the complaints, how I was just barking orders and I didn't ask nicely. He told me that I did the right thing, and that next time, if it wasn't going to be a major issue, to just give them enough rope to hang themselves. So I thought to myself, okay. So the next time I saw that they had the valve set in such a way that 2 soap tanks would overflow, and while it's not an EPA big deal, it would bring scrutiny from the health, environmental, safety, and security decision of our company. I mentioned to them that they might want to check the valve lineup because something just didn't look right. Well, they told me to mind my own business, and as it was time time for me to go home, I called the manager from my car and said that you should probably start heading to the terminal because 2 tanks are about to overrun. I tried to tell them, but they told me to mind my own business. Well, I didn't get halfway home before a neighbor to the facility came knocking on the door saying liquid was overflowing 2 tanks. As the only first responder not involved in the incident, I had to return to the facility and supervise the cleanup until corporate came in about 3 hours later. All 3 were put on probation and then eventually fired for more screw-ups. Now, the beauty of this was that after that incident, they were told to follow what I said explicitly and never again complain that someone doesn't say please and thank you in a crisis. They all hated me until the day they left. And you want to know why? It's because I was the only person to take charge when no one else would step up and do it. Honestly, good for the original poster for sticking to their values and doing exactly what they need to do in a time of crisis. Like here you are stepping up to the plate and taking care of something that could have been massive. And as a point of reference, the EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm willing to bet you definitely don't want them knocking on your door, especially if there's a major spill from a petroleum company. It's also really funny to me that these coworkers are like, wow, I can't believe you talked to us like that. You were so mean about how you said that. And it's like, what are you talking about? This is literally an emergency and you want me to be like super nice to you? Like, I'm sorry, but we need to get stuff done because if we don't, it's gonna be tragic and we're all gonna lose our jobs. Or potentially even worse, like, are you serious right now? It sounds like the coworkers were just being super soft and there was like no reason to be so offended over what this guy was doing. So truly good for this guy for stepping up and doing what needed to get done, because clearly nobody else had the guts to step up when it counted. Am I the jerk for getting my neighbor and client banned by all local babysitters after they tried to slander my name online? Here's what happened. So over the holidays, I got the chance to go to the Caribbean with my neighbors as their nanny. My parents were not thrilled, but it was after Christmas, so they let me go. The deal was pretty simple. It was 10 days at an all-inclusive resort. I would share a room with the kids and take care of them for 7 days and nights. In return, I got $500 and 3 days to myself, and the rooms would be adjoined. My parents insisted I get everything in writing, so there was no mistake. Basically, we agreed that I would work 2 days and take 1 day off, and I would do this over and over again. And I thought to myself, no problem. And I even checked out the included activities with any excursions that I might like. On my 3rd day off, I had planned to go scuba diving. I got up early and went on my excursion. When I got back, the parents were mad that I had left without warning, but I reminded them that we had a deal, and they said they had met another couple there and were going golfing and that I screwed up their plans. But I seriously don't know why they made plans on one of my free days. They were upset all the way home. When we got back, they posted how irresponsible I was. One of the other families called me to get my side of the story, so I sent them a picture of the deal that we agreed on. They said they knew I wouldn't do what I was being accused of. Then they started commenting on the post made by my neighbors, and my parents also joined in on this. But I think everyone thought they were just protecting me. So now it's a big deal and everyone knows that they tried to change our deal without talking to me, and some of the other babysitters or their parents are now saying they won't babysit for my neighbors anymore. Now, I feel bad about it because they paid a lot for my vacation, and if they had asked about it, I would have probably switched my excursion to the last day. Anyways, they are upset that I narked them out, which I didn't even do. They said that I could have talked to them if I had a problem, even though I'm not the one that made this public. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? It is so rich of them to be like, wow, if you had a problem, you could have talked to me in private. Meanwhile, they post all this garbage online about you not doing your job. Like, seriously, what in the world is going on? They called you irresponsible and all this other stuff online, and then they get upset like, wow, you didn't have to make this public. It's like, what are you talking about? You tarnished my reputation. That is not okay, and you're not gonna get away with that. And here's the thing, they completely went back on your deal. I mean, thank goodness you had everything in writing to some degree. I'm assuming you had some kind of text message of some kind, or something to basically notate that yes, you had this agreement and this is how it was specifically set up. So for them to turn their backs on you and start posting about you online while simultaneously being upset that their side of the story was completely wrong and they were actually just trying to screw you over, in my opinion, is completely hilarious. They literally want to be both victim and executioner in the same sentence. If they wanted to renegotiate the terms of your agreement, they should have brought you along and said, hey, we need to change just a few things. And then, just like any other reasonable person in the world, you probably would have been like, sure, we can change that up. That's not that big of a deal. But instead, they're like, wow, on your day off, we went golfing and you messed things up for us. It's like, no, I didn't. You did that yourself. These parents are weird, and honestly, none of this is your fault. So truly, you are not the jerk, and I really think your neighbors got exactly what they deserved. Am I the jerk for lying to my family for 2 years by not revealing that me and my husband bought a house by the lake? Because right now, after they found out, they're calling us greedy and are demanding the address to that house, with my mom even asking for spare keys. And right about now, I'm seriously unsure of what to do. Here's what happened. A few years ago, my husband and I told our relatives that we wanted to buy a country house by the lake. In our country, almost everybody lives in apartments, so our families were very happy. My mother immediately decided that she wanted to arrange a vegetable garden in the yard of this house. And my husband's sister said that it would be a great place where she could take her children for the summer. My sister started fantasizing about family picnics, and my husband's brother jokingly said that this would be a good place to get drunk on the weekends. Well, when we heard all of this, we were both terrified. We did not want any of this in the slightest. We wanted to have a place where we could truly feel at home, a place where we could rest, and a place where we could arrange everything to our taste. We wanted a place where we could raise our future children, where we could have peace and quiet and not deal with family squabbles. In the end, we decided to tell them that the deal had fallen through and there would be no house. After all, it is none of their business. We were the only ones buying the house, and it has nothing to do with them. Plus, we just didn't need to tell them anything. We only told the truth to our best friends, who we were sure would not spoil anything. The house is really beautiful, and my friends and I often go there on the weekends. Well, 2 years have passed by, and my sister found out about the house by accident because one of my friends posted a photo from there. Now our families are furious and call us greedy. Many of the relatives don't want to talk to us until we give them the address, with my mom even asking for spare keys. And this is exactly the hype that we tried so hard to avoid. Now, I don't think we're jerks, but my husband is starting to hesitate about what we should have done. So truly, are we the jerks in this scenario? What should I do? Not only are you not the jerks, but if you seriously want to keep your peace, I would not give out any spare keys to your house. I don't even care if it's your mother. Literally, don't give it to anybody. Here's the thing. If your relatives don't want to talk to you until you give them access to the house, then I think that's probably like a big problem solved. These people see this house as a party house or as a house that they can slowly take over. But this isn't some family property that anybody can just show up to. This isn't a place where someone can live and get drunk at on the weekends. This is your place and your place alone. And literally no one else in your family has any say over what you can and can't do with this house. Like with the way they're acting, I don't blame you for a second for not wanting to tell them about your purchase. Because right now they're giving you this weird ultimatum of how they're just not going to talk to you unless you give them the address. Like, I'm sorry, that's insane behavior and you do not owe them that kind of information. It seems like your extended family tries to claim anything anyone else gets in their life, and this is one of those situations where they're like, wait a second, what about me? But then I would want to ask back, yeah, exactly, what about you? You don't own this house, and there's a reason I didn't tell you about it. Because literally, this is the way you would act. And I don't know about the original poster, but I would not want family like this over all the time at a place that I would want to call home. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your extended family is incredibly selfish and very entitled, and I simply don't blame you for not wanting to deal with them in the slightest. Would I be the jerk if I decided to break up with my boyfriend after he didn't do anything for my birthday or even Valentine's Day? Because right now, that's the reality I'm faced with, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for nearly 4 years, and we've been living together for almost 3. It was fine until March of 2023, and that is where we kind of started struggling. Now, my birthday is a little more than a week before Valentine's Day, so I don't ever expect anything for Valentine's Day because of how close they are together. However, I made it clear at the beginning of the relationship that if we don't celebrate my birthday, then I would like to do something for Valentine's Day instead. My boyfriend has always struggled with getting gifts, even for his own family. So I've been trying to be patient and understanding with his lack of gifts on all gift-giving holidays. There have been birthdays and Christmas where I've gotten absolutely nothing, and sometimes I get something small. This year, however, he didn't even bother booking the day off of work. I even reminded him before his job's booking deadline to book my birthday and our anniversary off. I hardly even saw him during my birthday, and I went out and bought my own cake and spent my night completely alone. His mom got me a little gift, and honestly, I didn't even care what it was. I was just happy that someone was thinking of me for my birthday. I hope that maybe he would make it up to me on Valentine's Day because he was kind of talking about it like he had something planned. I felt like an idiot for even getting my hopes up because I saw him for a whopping 10 minutes that day. He spent the morning out with his friends, and when I came home, he was asleep with a brand new PS5 downloading some games. He said that he was going to get groceries while out with his friends, but didn't get anything but the PS5. So he bought a gift for himself on Valentine's Day. Any plans that he talked about just didn't happen like usual. Now, it doesn't even matter if I tell him exactly what I want. He's not going to do it or get it. Then, even during the time leading up to my birthday, he was only talking about things that he wants to get himself, like a PS5. So honestly, am I being too greedy by being upset about this? I'm just tired of feeling like I'm not as important to him as he is to me. Would it be okay if I broke up with him over this? What should I do? I think you hit the nail on the head with that last sentence, because from the outside looking in, it really seems like he does not prioritize you at all. Like he just straight up ignored your birthday and Valentine's Day, even though you've made it very clear that if we're not going to celebrate one of them, then you want to celebrate the other one. And also, you're not asking that much of him. You're literally asking for the bare minimum in a relationship, and I seriously just don't think it's that hard to try and make plans for your significant other in this way, especially for Valentine's Day. Like, there is no good excuse for that. That's a very famous holiday, at least in America, and there's no reason he should have missed that at all. Like, the bar is so low in this scenario, it's practically on the ground. So no, of course you're not the jerk in this situation. Your boyfriend is being absolutely inconsiderate of your feelings and of the holidays that are in front of him, and if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be reconsidering everything that I know about him. Several entitled customers demand that I take pictures of their table that I'm serving, even when I'm incredibly busy doing my job, and I'm honestly so sick of it that I'm now starting to say no. Here's what happened. Okay, so things are really starting to get out of hand. I don't mind taking people's photos. If it adds to their night and I have the time, why not? But it's now multiple tables at night, and it's now rarely an appropriate time. No exaggeration, but 4 out of the 5 tables that ask me do so when I'm carrying a stack of dirty dishes or a tray full of drinks, or when I'm running food to another table and I'm very clearly and visibly busy. Half the time it's a table in someone else's section, just like a few nights ago. I was running drinks during the rush for another server, and after I delivered one table's drinks, they immediately asked me to take their picture. I still had multiple drinks on my tray, and when I told them that they'd have to wait for their server to return, one woman legitimately scoffed. I've had people attempt to interrupt me while I'm taking another table's order, and I've had people interrupt me while in the middle of taking their table's order, just to take a stinking photo. Last night, I reached my limit. I was passing by a table in another section, and a man grabbed my arm and handed me his phone. Now, I knew what he wanted, but instead of acquiescing to his non-request, I slipped the phone in my apron and I kept walking. I went and stood in the kitchen for 60 seconds, just enough time for him to sweat, and of course, he was waving frantically from the table as I approached. His dining companions were cracking up, but he was not happy. He said to me, "I wanted you to take our picture, not walk off with my phone." So I looked at him and I said, "Oh, really? You just handed me your phone and didn't say anything." So I assumed it was a gift. I placed his phone on the table and then I walked away. And of course, I immediately told my coworkers. And at the end of the night, the server told me that the same guy later did the exact same thing to him. And the server told the guy that he would have thought the guy had learned his lesson by now, considering the first server the guy did that to walked off with his phone. And the guy was not amused by that either. And then 99% of the time, it's older folks who are doing this, clearly in their late 50s and up, which is prime time for this kind of obnoxious, entitled, oblivious behavior. I know it's important for them to document every activity for their Facebook friends, but it is not my priority at all, and I'm honestly so sick of it. Yeah, that seriously sounds really obnoxious. Like, these people are being very disruptive, and they're grabbing you right when you literally have no time to do anything for them. Whether you're delivering food or at least helping another customer, or trying to get somebody's order, to have them come up and be like, "Hey, can you take our picture?" without any kind of acknowledgement that maybe you're a little too busy for that is incredibly rude. I think the way you handled that one guy, though, is absolutely brilliant. This guy didn't even ask you for a photo. He just handed you his phone and just expected you to what, read his mind? Like, I'm sorry, sir, I'm not a telepath. I can't read your thoughts because, trust me, your thoughts are probably stupid. So truly, good for you for starting to say no to these people, because honestly, I think it's time for you to put your foot down, because these people have been very disrespectful of your time and completely ignoring the fact that you're on the clock. And in my opinion, you absolutely do not deserve to be treated like that in the slightest. An entitled manager acts like a complete jerk to my mother-in-law, refusing to give a store credit to us after after his employees delivered our food incorrectly to our house. But eventually, we decide that enough is enough, as we choose to take the corporate route, forcing this jerk of a manager to comply with our reasonable request. And I'm seriously so blown away by how rude this guy truly was. Here's what happened. So this past Sunday, my mother-in-law had ordered pizza for everyone at her house. This is something she does regularly for her family. She's very kind and generous, often taking the younger kids into her home on weekends, so the kids and parents in our family have room to breathe for just a little bit. That doesn't leave much free time for herself because she works as a full-time nurse during the week. We always thank her, we make sure she doesn't need a break that week, and let her know how much we appreciate her. This weekend though, she went above and beyond. She had the 15 and 12-year-old girl cousins and my 6-year-old son from Friday to Sunday night. All of this while bringing him to the birthday party we planned and set up for our own son on Saturday, and then offering to keep him afterwards. I mean, she really is amazing. So back to the pizza. She likes to order from that hut that makes pizza, and normally there aren't any problems. This time though, when her food was delivered, the pizzas were cold and they had forgotten 4 sodas. She was rightfully upset and called the store to see if they could still deliver the drinks or if she could get a discount or some kind of refund. Now, it really should be noted that my mother-in-law was very respectful. So when she called the store on speakerphone, what I heard in response was honestly mind-blowing. My mother-in-law started off by saying, "Do you know if the driver who just dropped off our order could bring the sodas back? I think they may have forgotten them." The man on the other end of the line, who is the jerk of this story, responded to my mother-in-law by saying, "Nah, I can't do that." My mother-in-law said, "Okay, could I get a refund or something like that instead?" This jerk said, "Your driver was through DoorDash, so you'd have to talk to them about that." My mother-in-law at this point was confused. She said, "Oh, I didn't know that you guys did that. Don't you guys deliver?" The guy on the other line then says, "Yeah, well, when it gets too busy, DoorDash just covers our other deliveries." My mother-in-law then said, "Wait, I paid a $5 delivery fee to the restaurant, not to DoorDash. Where does that money end up going?" The jerk on the other line then loses his patience. He says to her, "Look, what do you want?" My mother-in-law says, "Well, I was hoping for some answers on my delivery and a discount or a refund. Is there a manager that I could speak with?" The jerk on the other line then screamed out that he was the manager and then reiterated, "What do you want?" Now, this is about the time me and the cousins noticed his tone shift. We were like, whoa, what is going on here? As it's right about here that things really started to escalate. My mother-in-law then asked if she could have his name, and this jerk said, "Nah, you don't need my name." So my mother-in-law circled back and said, "Can I just get a store credit or something like that?" But this entitled jerk once again screamed out, "Nope, can't do that." With all of us in the background, now joined by my younger brother-in-law who also lives there, we remarked by saying, "Why is he being so rude? They were the ones who forgot our drinks. We weren't even rude to them." My mother-in-law says the magic words. She says, "I think I'm just gonna call corporate, thanks." And it's right about then that this entitled jerk's tune suddenly changed. He took a pause and then he said, "You still want that store credit?" My mother-in-law said, "Yes," and then she recited off her number. But before she could even get the full number out, this entitled jerk interrupted her and said, "What's your number again?" And it's right about here that my mother-in-law's voice raised because she was getting fed up with his rudeness. She said to him, "I was just saying it," and then she said it all over again. The entitled jerk then cuts in and says, "It's credited. You need anything else?" And my mother-in-law once again said, "Yes, I need the number to corporate if you have it." But even then, this entitled jerk said, "Nope, can't give it to you," with my mother-in-law eventually saying, "Then no, you can't help me." And then she hung up. Now, honestly, this whole thing really made me upset because of how much my mother-in-law had done for the family all weekend. So truly, to that entitled jerk, shame on you. You should not be in a professional position and speak to people that way. As an ex-pizza place worker myself, I understand how rough the job can be, but that's no excuse to lash out to a customer who simply wants what they ordered or a refund if you can't provide it, because this guy's behavior was completely inappropriate. Yeah, that guy was being a massive jerk. It's very obvious that his store messed up, and they're the reason why this did not go out correctly. Like, he was just defensive right off the bat, getting incredibly rude and snappy with his mother-in-law, while also like refusing to give a store credit when they messed up. And I don't believe that for a second that this is somehow DoorDash's problem. I'm 100% convinced that it's the pizza place's fault, and they're the ones that have to pick up the tab. And for this manager to act this way is just so uncalled for. So good for you and your mother-in-law for getting this taken care of, but hopefully some kind of justice was brought down on that manager, because the way he was talking was completely inappropriate, and your mother-in-law absolutely did not deserve that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit last minute and ruining the parents' important plans, all because their son seemed older than what they said they were? Because right now, everybody's angry with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I'm a 19-year-old female, and I've been babysitting occasionally for a few families for the past 2 years. A week ago, a new family got my numbers from one of the families that I babysit for a lot. I told them up front that I have this rule where I only babysit boys that are 10 years of age and under, but when it comes to girls, the age isn't an issue for me. They told me they had 2 boys ages 9 and 10, so I agreed. They told me that they had very important plans the day I am to babysit, and I reassured them that I am very professional, and I will be there on time and all that good stuff. The day came and I went to their house, and the dad greeted me. Then he took me to their living room to meet their boys. To my surprise, the boys looked like no 9 or 10-year-old I've ever met. One looked about 12 years old, and the other one looked like he could be 15 or 16 years old. Both of them were taller than me, and the older one even had some visible facial hair. All that was going through my head was these parents lied to me about the ages, because I lead with my rule about ages, and they lied to me just so I would accept. When the mother came down and greeted me, I asked to speak with her in another room, and I told her I cannot babysit. I was also truthful about the reason, and she was livid. We got into a back and forth where I basically said that I feel they lied about the ages, and she said to me, "Oh, so you want me to show you their birth certificate to believe me?" And at that point, I was kind of mad because she was immediately livid, and I also felt like I was fooled. So I said, yeah, some proof would really help. She stomped off to the living room, and I could hear her screaming at her husband. She said, "Get this jerk out of my house. I will stay with the boys." I walked out of the kitchen towards the front door, and I announced that I'm leaving before I stepped out. Later that night, the mom of the family who recommended me called and was pretty angry. I explained that these boys look so much older than they were said to be, and there was no way they weren't lying. She said maybe one is actually 11, but the other truly is 9 years old, and that they just look like they're so much older. To be fair, the mother was tall and the dad was huge. It's actually the reason I asked to confront the mother and not the father. But these boys weren't just tall, they also looked older face-wise. Also, babysitting 2 strange boys who were both taller and clearly so much stronger than me doesn't feel safe, which is why I have the age rule in the first place. There was no way that their mother didn't realize her boys looked so much older than boys their ages. I feel like it was something she should have mentioned, especially after I told her my rules about who I'm going to be babysitting. I felt like I was justified, but I also felt bad about ruining their plans. Everyone involved is angry with me, and I wonder if maybe I was overreacting and should have just babysat since I agreed. Because right now, I don't know what to think, and I seriously don't know what to do. No, honestly, this is not your fault. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I personally think the mom and the dad were completely lying in this scenario, and that's why the mom immediately, like right off the bat, got incredibly upset at you. And that's because you try to stick to your boundaries and stick to your plan. And I also don't blame you for not wanting to babysit any boys over the age of 10. For your own safety, that makes a lot of sense. And the boys you're describing do not sound like kids at all. I mean, one of them nearly had facial hair. I don't know about you, but personally, I've never met a child that has facial hair like that, although I'm sure there's some kind of anomaly out there that maybe I've just never seen before. So if these parents didn't want their night ruined, then they should have been a bit more honest, because clearly they were trying to pull one over on you, and I don't think you deserve that in the slightest. My girlfriend has gone off the rails, as she is blatantly taking advantage of me and refusing to pay me anything towards utilities, while also living in my house rent-free. And I'm now at the point where I'm asking her to leave and move out, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I have been having some serious issues. I asked my girlfriend to move out a couple of weeks ago because I didn't feel like she respects me or my house, and I feel frequently taken advantage of. For reference, I bought a house by myself a couple of years ago when I was partnered in a large business. I didn't recommend that we break up, but just took some space so that she could shoulder some of her own responsibilities financially, just to see what it actually takes to be fully financially responsible as a person. My mortgage is $2,300, and I work from home, so my utilities like the power I cover myself. I've got a car and a small loan that I'm paying off, and overall, my bills are roughly $4,500 more, and since she's moved in, it's maybe like $4,800, and that's not including business expenses, and this is all give or take a couple hundred depending on utilities. Before she moved in, she said that she could afford to give me $600 a month, which basically was $150 a week. I even said that I would take $500 if she could do it all at once, and and I would legitimately use this money to take care of her. And that includes absolutely everything: food, utilities, even the occasional herb that I get for myself. I make enough to get by, but not enough to take care of someone else 100%. I make about $65,000 after taxes, and it's my first year as a solo business owner, and I still haven't paid my taxes yet, so I can't say 100%. But either way, I still drive DoorDash in my awful little 3-cylinder gas saver, and this is when I'm not busy doing other things. I work 40 to 60 hours a week regularly, but I love running my own business. Now, back to the point. She's not given me anything in the past 2 months, and she even took a flight to go visit family, and that was cool and everything like that. But when I recommended that she get her own place again, she started throwing stuff and just screaming. There was some minor damage to 2 of the walls and a few holes from picture frames, and then she threw my pasta roller and put a dent in the hardwood floor. I'm not saying her mental health is more important than my house, but after throwing several smaller objects, she was slowly starting to grab bigger objects, and so I eventually tried to stop her by grabbing her hand. And when I did that, this 110-pound girl started punching me in the face. She hit me 4 times really quick before I let go. For reference, I'm 5'9" and 190 pounds, and I'm in great shape, and I've never been more shook up by someone hitting me. I just wanted her to stop throwing my stuff. I eventually lost it. I backed away screaming, "What in the world is wrong with you? You actually just hit me." I started screaming some nasty words while I was angry, how her best friend was trashy, how I wanted her out this instant, how she was lazy and ungrateful, and how she needed anger management, and that her parents didn't finish raising her. When she told me that I was being crazy, I realized I indeed was being pretty crazy, and I stormed off downstairs in my office to be alone. I was extremely upset that I had lost my temper, but was shocked that she had hit me as well. I was really going through it emotionally. Now, for a bit of backstory on this best friend of hers, they are constantly going out weekly and drinking, or just going on day trips weekly. They've also worked together and have been fired from multiple jobs together, and this is due to both of them drinking on the job. And I was hyping her up to look for a new job because she hated her current one so much. Now, here's the thing. I'm cool with having fun. I just can't get my head around going out with friends when she is so broke, she doesn't even have the funds to afford new windshield wiper blades. The next day, there was a sorry card and some flowers, but nothing was said about it for another 24 to 32 hours. That is, until I was at the gym, and she asked me if I was just going to ignore it. I told her I was waiting for her to give it to me so we could talk, and I got home and I came home to the card ripped up and the flowers in the trash instead. I pulled it out and the card literally just said, "I'm really sorry, I love you so much," and I pulled the flowers out because I thought they were nice. We talked for a bit and things calmed down just a little bit, and communication has been alright for about a week or so. Well, today rolls by and the same thing happens, where she didn't give me any money, which is something we agreed upon last Friday that she would do. Also, I have to force her to do chores and she's got an attitude about it the entire time. I literally put all her clothes away because they were just thrown all over the guest room. So today we make plans to go to the store after she got back from the gym today at about 12 o'clock. She texted me that she doesn't want to go to the store and that it makes her anxious and she will just send me some money. And this was all at 1:50 p.m. too. She also stated that she was going with her friend to go get some lunch, this being the same friend that I don't like. So I told her that I had just wanted to spend some time with her because I only needed to grab a bag of protein, and that I was only really going so she could grab some stuff herself. And this is because all she does is complain about being hungry the day before and that there was nothing else to eat in the house. I also said that I wasn't going to spend that time by myself shopping for the both of us when I have over 2 weeks worth of protein, veggies, and carb sources that I'm going to use for myself at the house. She just replied by saying, "LOL, really?" And I asked her what she thought was so funny. At this point, it's like 4 p.m. now, and she's like posting pictures of her and her friend's family, as well as several of her friends playing a board game, as well as drinking some drinks. And when I saw that, I just got more annoyed. She told me I was being selfish, and I snapped back by saying, "It's not like I was waiting to hang out with you all morning." I mean, I pushed back work on her day off, but she'd literally rather go play games with her friends and drink and hang out with them instead of me. And she's got to go to work with them tomorrow. I then also reminded her that she's given me nothing towards any bills for over 2 months, and that she should probably get her own place, because then she might be a little bit more grateful for all the things I've done for her. Well, she left for the gym and came back 8 hours later, and I just cleaned the guest room out and asked her to sleep in there. Honestly, I am so upset to be in this position. I feel like I'm going to lose a friend, but I honestly cannot let someone take advantage of me like that. that. I know I'm far from perfect, and she says asking where she is mad controlling. But I just think it's common courtesy to let your significant other of over a year, who you also live with by the way, to let them know exactly what's going on in your life. I mean, I didn't know what was happening for almost 5 hours. Look, I love her, but between the hitting, the lack of motivation, the awful trashy friends, I mean, should I just get her out of here? Am I a complete jerk? I felt like I was asking the bare minimum, but she can't even give me that. What should I do? I can confidently say that your girlfriend does not care about you, and she is using you for a place to stay. Like seriously, let's look at the facts real quick. This lady is not thinking about you in the slightest. She's using you and basically like getting out of paying any kind of bills. She has physically hit you, which is a massive red flag. She also is neglecting you and is refusing to talk to you in some kind of like functional way. Like that's insane to me, and there's no good excuse for that. For reference, by the way, the original poster is 32 and his girlfriend is 31. Like the way your girlfriend's acting, it really seems like she's stuck in her teenage years because her behavior is so atrocious. This is not fair for you in the slightest, and it puts you in an awful position because clearly you love this lady, like you obviously have some kind of connection with her, and you want to try and make this work, but she is taking advantage of you left and right, and she's doing nothing to improve the situation, and that in and of itself is just completely unfair. So I know if I was in your shoes and I had a girlfriend acting like this, I would not feel bad about saying, look, you've got to go. You got to find your own place and figure your own stuff out, because you can't just live in my house rent-free and then also treat me like garbage and hit me and throw things around my house and expect me to want to keep you around. And if anything, with all things set aside, the fact that she punched you in the face repeatedly, as well as threw things around the house, in my opinion, is unacceptable. That is an absolute deal breaker for me, and there's no way she's ever gonna stay there if I was in your shoes, because she absolutely could have been arrested for a lot less than that. And in my opinion, you deserve a much better relationship than what your girlfriend is currently giving you. I have a guest who has overstayed her welcome and has completely taken advantage of me in a way that I never expected, and I'm now at such a loss that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I am trying to figure out a way to tell a guest of mine who's 38 years old that she needs to leave my apartment. For a bit of background, I only knew this lady for about a year through mutual friends. We were not extremely close, but had simple, cordial interactions. One day, the lady wanted to hang out at my place, which turned into frequent visits. She then told me that she was in the process of finding a new apartment, but the move-in date for the one that she wanted was 2 weeks away, and she would need to go out of town to stay with family and come back. So I offered this lady to stay with me instead in the meantime, and I now regret this decision. I should have known better and found out her character the hard way. I truly thought there was no issue with her because she does have a good job and she is 38. Well, it's been about 2 months now, and it doesn't seem like this lady is going anywhere. She brought many of her clothes and items, she goes to work and comes back, and I'm now feeling so uncomfortable in my own apartment. And in addition, this lady is apparently very nosy and wants to know everything, every single step outside that I take. The lady is always overwhelming me with her life drama to kind of make me feel bad too. I later learned that she is a people user, as she's actually told me that she stayed with other people over the past few months. I am struggling to figure out how to ask her to leave without turning into the bad guy. I am in a long distance relationship, so I thought about asking my man to come, but I am convinced this lady will not leave until the day of and will want to come back around. So I'm honestly at such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first things first, I think you need to get the idea of being the bad guy out of your head completely. You need to embrace the fact that she's probably gonna have some kind of reaction from this, and that is honestly not your problem. She is invading your space. She said she was gonna be there for what, 2 weeks? And that has slowly morphed into 2 months. This lady could obviously find another place to live because you're not the only person that's had to deal with this in the past. So any notion of like, oh, but she has nowhere to go, that thought is a complete lie, and you need to chase that out of your head. Because the fact of the matter is that this lady is using you. She is using you as a free place to stay, as well as having a place to stay without any kind of rent. You've also hit the nail on the head when you identified her as a people user. Like, there's very clearly a pattern here, and it's unfortunate that you had to learn this the hard way. Also, all this drama that she's trying to share with you, as well as her being like, oh man, I need a new apartment, but I don't know how to get there. Like, it's all manipulation tactics. She's only sharing that to try and make you feel guilty, so you will feel forced to try and let her stay in your apartment just a little bit longer. So honestly, in my opinion, it's time to start communicating your boundaries and explain to her upfront exactly how you feel. It's time to lay it all out on the board and say, this this is how it is. Give her a timeline of when she needs to move out so that you can have your apartment back. Because this is not a permanent engagement. She cannot stay here forever. That is not what you agreed upon. And if she throws a fit, well then fine, throw a fit. But do that while you're packing your bags and getting out of my house. Because what she's doing right now is completely inappropriate. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be making these steps much sooner than later. My entitled Karen of a mother walks out on my family anytime someone says anything she doesn't like, leaving the family for months on end and making me and my father feel like garbage in the process. And after dealing with this for so long, I'm seriously at such a loss, and I really don't know how to deal with my mother or how to move on. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Okay, so for a bit of backstory, I am a mousy 18-year-old female, and I'm finishing up high school and my 2-year degree. I am first in my class. I've been awarded many honors for my academic achievement and athletic ability, and have participated in academic camps, including a month-long summer camp where I focus on mathematics, as well as several other camps at universities across the nation, and this will be relevant later on. I live with my mother and father, and it is because of them that I work so hard. Now, moving on to the story, I'm beginning to feel resentment towards my mother because every time I offer constructive criticism, she just leaves. She's done this since I was a little kid, and has done this more to my dad than to me. If you act sarcastically towards her, she takes it as a real statement. If you say you're crazy while laughing after she said a joke, she thinks that you are insulting her. All of this can be avoided if you know that she acts negatively towards it, but like in all healthy relationships, one thing can't be avoided, and that thing is constructive criticism. Beginning in January of 2023, her demeanor towards criticism became increasingly more hateful after one event. My first and only boyfriend, a boy whom my mom and father quite literally forced me to date originally, made a dire mistake. I love him dearly, but he made the mistake of using a phrase with my mom that is a no-go in our house. My mom was joking with him, and he jokingly said, "Oh, get out of here." And it was like the world came crashing down. My mom instantly hated him, and once she hates someone, there is no turning back. Regarding her immediate hatred towards him, in the following weeks, I was keeping him up to date on if relations were getting any better. I made the mistake in our private messages of sending a certain meme that involves Carl Wheezer from Jimmy Neutron that more or less says that she is mad. What I didn't anticipate was that later, my mom, in her typical fashion of being controlling, went through my phone. She saw the meme, and it was immediate hysteria. My mom was screaming, crying. She was throwing items at me, telling me how awful of a daughter I had been. I was told that I was an ungrateful jerk. She told me that they had been lying to me about my IQ and that I was not actually that smart. Then, without listening to my explanations of the meme, she packed her things and then she left. And I don't know why, but I was surprised. She had done this several times before, but it was never towards me. It was always me and my dad or just my father. For weeks, she would not even talk to me. She stayed gone for a month, unwilling to say a word or listen to a single thing. During that month, I was home alone many nights, from where she let my father know where she was staying, and he went to see her. Those long nights, I stayed on calls with my boyfriend, who seemed to blame himself for the situation. He encouraged me to go stay with his parents who live nearby, but I felt like such a burden. I didn't want to ruin anyone else's life. If my own mother didn't love me, then who could? A few months went by and my mom came back, and she just pretended like nothing happened. According to her, she had left to lick her wounds. I got accepted into the prestigious month-long summer camp, and during my time there, I was struggling. It was math like I had never seen before. It was proofs and topology. And if you don't know what that is, in my eyes, calculus is elementary in comparison. In the midst of this, my mom texted me almost every day to say that she wanted to begin filling out college applications while I was there. I told her I didn't want to do that just yet, and not thinking as I should have been, I told her that she was stressing me out. And this was about halfway through the month of camp. I received no further contact from my mom, and my father came to pick me up alone and then took me away on a vacation for the weekend. Since then, I have turned 18 years old and I still am with my boyfriend, which is much to my mother's dismay. I'm about to head off to college, and in celebration, I was considering going to Japan. My boyfriend is in the army and is deployed to Korea, and this trip has been a lifelong dream for me, so it's perfect timing. My father supports it, as he still absolutely loves both of us and sees us as everything he wishes he would have been when he was younger. My mom, however, is saying that she's gonna leave my father if he supports us being together or if he lets me go on the trip. In addition, she wants to force me to stay off campus at my future university so that I can stay in a house with her. her. She has also mentioned wanting to have a room in whatever house I own when I'm out of college and living there the rest of my life. Meanwhile, she continues berating me about how I'm lazy, conspiring against her by wanting simple adult freedoms, and is being very verbally and emotionally awful towards me as always. If I'm having a bad day and have droopy eyes or eye bags, she thinks I'm giving her a look. I get the silent treatment almost every day, and when I'm not getting that, I'm hearing all about her job and how she hates it and how every one of her friends is a deadbeat and all this other stuff. On top of everything, I've caught word that there's a shiny gift to be expected from my boyfriend once I get out of high school. And this is all per my dad's arrangement, so I have no idea how to deal with bringing that up to my mom. So honestly, do I sound like the jerk here? My mom and dad do work hard to care for me. They do push me, but I guess it does make me do better regardless of how depressed and anxious I may feel now. I know they both really do love me, but they struggle to show that. My mom is a typical Karen according to my classmates, both via her attitude and her appearance, which mirrors the stereotypical highlighted A-line cut, but even then I still hope that she loves me, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this outright. No, of course the original poster is not the jerk. Your mom is awful. She is literally an awful human being. What you've described is so unbelievably nasty, and it's so unbelievably immature. So anytime anyone says anything to her, she just packs her bags and just runs out the door. Like, what kind of mother would do that? Like, that is not a good parent or even a parent to begin with. It's incredibly manipulative, and it's just so incredibly toxic. Like, the original poster walks around on eggshells every waking moment of their life, wondering if what they're gonna say next is gonna set this lady off. And then just like that, she's gonna play the victim and run off for months on end. And your dad is no better in this situation either. He's allowing this behavior to happen and essentially saying, okay, I'm gonna go visit your mom who had to run away because of you. Even though he's not like specifically articulating that, his behavior and actions speak way louder than any words he could possibly say. Now, it's very clear in my opinion that now that you're an adult, your mom still wants to control every aspect of your life. That's the only reason why she's like, okay, for college, you're gonna live with me, instead of you living on campus and living a normal college life. The other evidence of that is her being like, oh, I'm gonna live in the house you live in after college. And I've gotta say this quite honestly, if you do agree to that and give in to her weird demands, this behavior will never stop. This is all just a form of manipulation where when she doesn't get her way, or when she perceives some form of like criticism, she runs off and gives you the silent treatment just to punish you. Because in those few months where she's gone, you're sitting there wondering, oh man, she hates me. She despises everything about me. And it prompts you to have all these terrible thoughts. And that, in my opinion, is one of the worst ways of manipulation, for me at least. When someone gives me the silent treatment and they refuse to have like an adult conversation or some kind of like discussion in some kind of way, that to me is so hurtful, especially when it's someone that I love and care about. If it was a stranger, like who cares? But this is your mom we're talking about. This is someone you thought you could trust and like lean on, but clearly she's not mature enough to have any kind of conversation. Like, I'm amazed that your dad is stuck with her for this long, especially with her abandoning the family anytime someone says anything. So in my opinion, you are definitely not the jerk. Your mom is crazy and you do not deserve any of this treatment. And hopefully with you going away to college and hopefully you decide to live on campus, you're able to have a lot more distance from your mother and have a better perspective on the way she's actually treating you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled boss tries to demote me and cause me to lose over $9,000 in wages, all because he couldn't hire somebody else to help me out in my job. So I decided to get some revenge by quitting on the spot and finding a better job, leaving my boss in an awful situation that he would have to figure out. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at a jerk like that in my life. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I worked at a janky 2-bit company. The boss thought he was a big shot, as well as God's gift simultaneously. He had such a big head, I'm surprised he could get through most doorways. He used to drink beer at his desk for lunch, and would often arrive at work very late. He was also an insufferable muscle bro, and walked around as if he was carrying rolls of carpet under each arm. This guy seriously was a massive jerk. A few months into my time there, the company starts winning large orders, so he asked me to set up a small-scale production line to increase capacity, and tells me the new hire will be situated there. So I design it, I set it up, I test that it all works, and I'm feeling a sense of pride with what I've accomplished. And you know what? It worked like a dream. I was confident that it would work really well for the new hire, and because I'm an engineer by trade, everything was perfect, and only only I knew how to fix stuff that went wrong. Nobody else asked how it worked before, making some very detrimental decisions. A while later, there was an issue. He couldn't hire anyone willing to accept such an awful wage and boring work. So the big shot boss had a bright idea to try and demote me and make me governor of my creation. But there was no way I was going to work for $9,000 less. I immediately started job hunting, and I told him if that's your final offer, then regard tomorrow as my final day. Well, he begins to panic that he's committed the company to a $1 million order for shipping in 3 days' time. During his alcohol-fueled panic, he tells me to write up highly detailed technical manuals and processes for my replacement. Now, for reference, the production line included some precise handwork, so he got pretty upset when I said I can't do that in one day. He also didn't specify what they should contain, and considering I had no help from him with this project and only endured a lot of complaints, I thought to myself, screw it. If he wants a manual, then that's exactly what he's gonna get. I then created a Word document with convincing titles like Technical Manual, Product Version 2.0, as well as how to do this precise task. Inside the documents, for example, was a picture of the popular Pokemon Pikachu, with its face looking very surprised. And I also put Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys looking lost in the document as well. Then, below all of that, I put down one line of text. It said, "This manual contains all the information I could find or was given." The file sizes would also indicate a lot of text was contained within thanks to the images. Therefore, at face value, they looked legitimate. So I saved them to my laptop in an equally legitimate looking folder that afternoon, and early the next morning, I came to work to collect my belongings, as well as do some handovers. And when I was doing that, I found that the laptop had vanished. I said my goodbyes to my colleagues, and I looked over to see him looking incensed with a beer in one hand. He was so angry he didn't even look up from his desk. A friend told me later that the company missed the production deadline despite him working 12-hour days to catch up, and apparently the client was extremely angry. So I guess the moral of the story is that you shouldn't screw over good people, because in the process you might just hurt yourself as well. Wow, that boss was completely out of line. Instead of paying somebody more money to try and work for his stupid company, he decides to demote the person who's actually making them the money in the first place. Like, seriously, buddy, you just bit the hand that feeds you. And the original poster has it right. I mean, if I was in his shoes, there's no way I would ever put up with that kind of treatment. Like, this guy might as well have been pulling $9,000 out of the original poster's pocket and throwing it in a bonfire. Like, that is seriously not okay, and I don't blame them for looking for another job, because the way they got treated was completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that it's her fault that our sons now hate and ignore their sister? Because right now she's really upset after what just happened, and I am seriously at such a loss that I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I have 3 kids. We have 2 boys ages 15 and 14, and a girl who's 12 years old. While my wife is a great mom to all of our kids, she always had a special bond with our daughter. I wouldn't frame it as a classic favoritism, but as a little bit more attention and love. The boys were always aware of this and teased their mom with it jokingly, but it was never a problem because she really is a great mom to them too. A few weeks ago, my 14-year-old boy, we'll call him Jim, that's not his real name, as well as our daughter, who we will call Anna, also not her real name, had a big fight and a screaming match. It turned out that Anna took Jim's AirPods to her dance class, forgot them there, and tried to lie about it. My wife intervened and apparently took Anna's side. I wasn't there, so I don't know. My older son, who we will call Alex, also not his real name, intervened on behalf of his brother and told his mom that she is unfair. Well, my wife doubled down and told them to get lost, and that Anna is more important. Now, here's the thing. My boys swear that she said that Anna is more important than them, but my wife swears that she said that Anna is more important than a pair of AirPods. Alex exploded and called his mom an awful name. He took his brother and then he left. My wife called them for hours, but they just didn't answer. In the end, she called me and I picked the boys up. Now, the relationship between our boys and their sister has been gone ever since this. They don't talk to her, they ignore her when she approaches them, and they simply won't tolerate her presence. When she enters the room, they leave, and it is heartbreaking to watch. My wife tried to mend things and talk to them, but she gets aggressively ignored as well. Yesterday, my wife had a breakdown and started to cry after we went to bed, and said that home life has been an absolute nightmare for the last few weeks. I had little sympathy, and I told her to suck it up because it is her fault. Well, she then called me a jerk and cried even more. So honestly, am I the jerk? I know I am technically in the right here, but my wife is already devastated and remorseful. It's now my job to help her mend the relationship between the girls and boys in our home. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I don't think you're the jerk for being honest and being like, hey, you pretty much did this yourself, but you need to pair that comment with some kind of action. If you just leave it at that and do nothing to try and mend the situation, then in my opinion, that's going to be like an awful scenario. That's going to make all of this get worse and worse, and I just don't think that's going to serve anybody well in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and hopefully for the sake of you and your family, everything can eventually be mended back to the way it was. My husband fully explained to me as to why he cheated on me, and I'm now at such a loss and so devastated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I are in our 40s, and he cheated on me with a girl in college. She's 21 years old, but he started the affair when she was 20 years old about 8 months ago. He's been cheating on me off and on for several years since I started menopause. And you know what? I found out while looking through his phone. He has an active dating app, and he set his age range specifically to 20 to 27 years old. I mean, he was never going to tell me he's cheating on me. I calmly told him that I know he's cheating on me, and he sighed and apologized, while also being relieved that I know because our marriage has been dead since our sons moved out. I asked him why he would cheat on me with someone so much younger than me, and honestly, the love in our marriage has been gone, and I'm more bothered by the fact of his age range being so low. It's just gross because our sons are the same age as these girls my husband is going after. My son's fiance is in their early 20s, and it's gross that my husband would go after her if she was single. Well, my husband told me that they are simply more attractive and that they are carefree. He told me not to take it personally because men will always find younger women attractive and how it's in their biology. He told me that older women can't compete with younger women, and he also said that she's bubbly and she's kind, she's full of life and she's not ugly, she doesn't have wrinkles when she smiles, and she isn't annoying. She isn't boring and she's fun, and she can drop what she's doing right now and come on a spontaneous adventure. And everything he told me just really hurt me so much. Those words kept replaying in my head at 4 in the morning. I can't sleep, and I keep thinking about how lifeless and boring my husband thinks I am. I told him that we're middle-aged and our bodies aren't meant to be out all night binge drinking and going on random midnight trips. We have responsibilities to think about. He says I'm making up excuses now because my husband has energy and he's full of life, and we don't have kids in the house anymore, and now I'm just making excuses for myself so that I can remain old and boring. And he might be right, but I'm not 21 anymore, and I don't desire to do 21-year-old things anymore. As for our marriage, he is leaving me. He's not leaving me for this college girl. They aren't even together anymore. He just wants a bachelor lifestyle. The boys know and they love us both, and they just want us to be happy. But I don't know if I can ever be happy. Not because of my husband leaving me, but it's because I can't get over the fact that he is right about me being lifeless over the years. That hurts more than the affair, knowing that this is true. I want to feel alive again, but I'm seriously at such a loss, and I now don't know what to do. Well, I think we can all confidently say that your soon-to-be ex-husband is a massive jerk. This guy was clearly a deadbeat, and I honestly feel so bad for the original poster. They don't deserve this treatment at all. So honestly, on one end, I'm kind of glad you're away from this jerk, but also I really hope you're able to move past this, because the man you were married to is not a good person, and I really hope with time you're able to move past this and be the best version of yourself you ever could be. Am I the jerk for supposedly ruining my brother-in-law's reputation simply by telling the truth to my friends? Because right now, my brother-in-law and my in-laws are incredibly angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I want to say that all names in this story are fake. So my in-laws are currently furious with me for hurting my brother-in-law's feelings and reputation with my friend group. Recently, my single brother-in-law, Chris, has been hinting at me to introduce him to a woman, and I've refused. Chris has been single for almost 3 years, and he's been having a really hard time meeting women. He tried flirting with my friend, but she had been cold and non-receptive. And this friend is a woman by the name of Grace. Grace is not interested in him due to his inability to be faithful, and she wasn't physically attracted to him either. He tried to flirtatiously engage with her during a small party my husband and I had last Saturday, and this was a party for my husband who got a long-awaited promotion, so it really was just a small party. But during the party, Grace had grown frustrated with his incessant flirting, and at some point told him in no uncertain terms that she found him physically ugly and that his physical ugliness is only surpassed by his ugliness of his character. She told him this in private, so no other guest heard her scathing review of his personhood. Well, Chris left the party, and the following afternoon, while my husband and I were nursing a wicked hangover, my in-laws, to my surprise, called me up and scolded me for having embarrassed and mistreated Chris. After a few minutes of us shouting back and forth on the phone, I reminded my husband that handling his family was his job. So while my husband argue with his parents, I reviewed our security cameras. And honey, Grace verbally tore him apart. Grace reminded him that he cheated and divorced his late wife by the name of Lily, all while she was battling cancer, and that he then got dumped by his mistress for being a cheater as he continued to cheat on her. Grace told him that he wasn't a man of any significant value other than the few coins he had in the bank, and that there's no way in the world she'd ever entertain his delusions. She also said that the only thing he had going for him was his overbloated job title as an executive director to a third-rate company that will probably collapse in the next 5 years. As a parting gift, she told him to consider some cosmetic work to improve his haggard appearance, and perhaps to start praying for divine intervention to fix his rotten soul, since there is no way a psychotherapist could ever come close to fixing whatever is wrong with him. Well, my in-laws and Chris feel that I should not have told my friends what Chris did because he's now perceived by my girlfriends as a terrible person. I told them that he was unfortunately a terrible person, and people would have found out what happened between him and his wife anyways. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I not only don't think you're the jerk, but I also think Chris really should not be invited back to anything that you do. Like, this guy does not sound like a good person at all, especially based on the fact that he cheated on his wife who had cancer. Like, this guy sounds like an awful human being, and I just would not want that around my house ever in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you're right that Grace would have found out about Chris's behavior pretty much no matter what. And in my opinion, any problems he has with finding women is literally his own fault and not yours. My entitled aunt and uncle freak out when my parents say they're gonna buy him a tablet to use for university, claiming that it would be a massive waste of money and that my brother would never use it for its intended purpose. And after dealing with this level of scrutiny and judgment, my family was utterly blown away when we found out that my uncle and aunt had not one but 2 iPads in their possession, resulting in my mother shutting them down in a glorious fashion. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened back in 2011. My uncle, who's my mom's brother, and his wife were always the kind of people who would complain about anything that people would do with their life. And back in 2011, my brother was graduating high school and was about to start university. By that time, my parents were deciding if they should buy him an iPad so he wouldn't have to carry heavy books around, or if he needed to take pictures of the board. Maybe he could use the iPad and browse the information while studying, or he could use the iPad instead of a computer. So basically, he was going to use the iPad as some kind of big library for his studies. My dad at the time told my uncle about his predicament because he had never used an iPad while he studied, and he didn't want to waste a couple $100 just for it to be treated like a toy, or for it to not even be used at all. My uncle and aunt immediately flipped over and started saying that buying an iPad or any kind of tablet was a waste of money, and that my brother wouldn't even use it. Well, my brother was upset. He wanted his iPad. He thought that carrying an iPad and a notebook around was better than carrying a bunch of books, a calculator, many notebooks, and sometimes a laptop around. Anyways, a couple of months passed and we are in November. My brother started university in September, and if this is relevant, in my country, unless the university is in another state, people usually stay with their parents while they study. In November, we went to my uncle and aunt's apartment to celebrate my cousin's birthday, and at that moment, it was her second birthday. My cousin is about to get fussy until my uncle gets a tablet out of nowhere and gives it to her. My dad asked my uncle why he gave a tablet to a baby, and my uncle says he discovered that with a tablet, my cousin doesn't get fussy while on planes. Now, we are talking and stuff, and my aunt decided to take pictures, but she then takes out another tablet, and my mother asked her about the old digital camera, with my aunt just saying that it was old and she needed something new. Now, that day, none of us said a thing. We just went back to our houses after celebrating that birthday and didn't say anything. But the next day, my dad took my brother to get his iPad. Now, my brother did use his iPad for university, and he only had like 1 or 2 games on it, but it mostly had books for engineering and related apps. Fast forward and on Christmas, we had dinner at my parents' house as always, and the moment my brother took his iPad out, my aunt and uncle went crazy, stating that my dad just wasted money and that my brother would just use it to play games. Well, my mom looked at him dead in the eye and said to him, "Oh, just like your 2-year-old daughter?" And when she said that, they went silent. They then tried to badmouth my brother's iPad every chance they could, but thankfully, my parents learned to not take my uncle seriously ever again. Wow, these people are literally the definition of being a hypocrite. Not only do they try to convince your parents to not buy your brother an iPad, but they also turn around and turn their kid into an iPad kid. And that's like so ironic to me, it's not even funny. You mean they really want to judge your brother for having an iPad for college, only to then turn around and buy not 1 but 2 iPads so that they can take pictures and have something for their kid to entertain them. Not to mention the fact that they seriously tried to make a fuss about this at Christmas. It's like, seriously, what is wrong with people? So they're willing to make their iPad a substitute parent, but your brother's not allowed to have it because he's just going to use it for games? Like, seriously, that's just so weird to me. So good for your mom and dad for putting them in their place, because your aunt and uncle were being incredibly entitled, and there is no reason that they should have acted like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mom demands that she can track my phone through an application. Also, she can help me out in case of emergencies. But since I know my mom and how this won't ever be used for emergencies, I'm hesitant to ever give my information out like that. But I'm now at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I have a very overprotective mother. I also travel a lot for work. Well, my job had me coming into town, so my mom could see me. I had a meeting after at the time I said I was done and I texted her. She kept calling me during the whole meeting, despite me sending a message that I couldn't talk because I was in a meeting. When I'm finally done and about to call her, another coworker tells me that my mom is looking for me. She had came down to the place I was working, wandering the outside looking for me. When I called her, she said she was in tears and worried over me. The next day, she asked if she could install an app to track my cell phone, but I told her that I didn't feel comfortable with that and had hoped that she would leave it, but she kept pushing it until I said no. She keeps trying to coax me into it, getting into claiming that it would be used for emergencies. I said that was a slippery slope and I know her, and it's going to reach a point where just emergencies turn into full-blown tracking my every single movement. She argued that she's getting better at not being so protective because she's going to therapy, so I told her, how about you ask your therapist what they think about her tracking me? Well, at this point, she keeps bringing it up and I'm honestly growing tired. I'm wondering if I should just give in and put an end to this annoyance, but at the same time, I feel like that's enabling her. So I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously now don't know what to do. Yeah, your mom's being super obnoxious. She wants to track you all because she couldn't find you that one day. Meanwhile, you're a 28-year-old woman who literally works for a living. Not to mention that she showed up at your place of employment. Like, that is so weird to me, it's not even funny. It is super inappropriate and it makes you look incredibly unprofessional. So I know if I was in your shoes, no matter what my mom would say, there's no way I would allow her to track me on my phone. That's a massive invasion of privacy, and as an adult, there's just no need for that. And I think, in my opinion, if you did give into that, this persistent annoyance would only continue to get worse. And I just don't think you deserve that kind of treatment. I'm moving out with my girlfriend against my parents' wishes. And even though they've expressed their displeasure of me moving out and possibly moving to Canada, I'm deciding to go ahead and move out for 3 months anyways. But I'm honestly so stressed out about ruining my relationship with my parents that I'm seriously unsure of what to do next. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I'm a 24-year-old male, and I'm an Australian-born Chinese only child, with my parents being Chinese immigrants themselves. I've been with my girlfriend for 6 months now, and we love each other so much. Recently, I've been having troubles with my girlfriend because of the problems that I have with my relationship with my parents. My girlfriend is originally from Canada, but she came here to Sydney to study, and she is staying here to study for the next 3 years. She says that she might consider moving back to Canada if she cannot sustain living here, since she has more opportunities for her there. And I was pretty willing to move there with her after 3 years if things still went well. However, my Asian parents both expressed their disapproval of me immigrating to Canada. They said they were tolerant of other things, but this was the only thing they didn't want me to do. I discussed options for them, but they wouldn't budge on it. So when I told my girlfriend about it, she felt upset since she thinks I choose them over her. This problem led to her being more distant from me, and I could see that she was disappointed about it. However, I am willing to move out with her, but even then, I still feel slight guilt about leaving my parents behind. They told me one of the main reasons they didn't want me to move out was because they would have no one to take care of them if they had any illness or injuries as they got older. They've also said things like, "We've raised you for 24 years and now you want to leave after everything we've done for you and we've taken care of you," and all this other stuff. But fast forward to today, and I'm now planning on moving out with my girlfriend to her place in Sydney for a little bit, and this is going to be for at least 3 months. I will be moving my stuff over quietly overnight and plan to leave on Monday and stay over at hers. I will leave a note saying that I am moving out and to only contact me if there is an emergency. But a part of me still feels that guilt of leaving them behind right now. They've still been taking care of me. Well, more so my mom, who always treats me well even to this day. She would ask me what's wrong and give her advice on things as well. I want to know if anyone else has ever faced something similar to this, and what exactly I should be doing here. Am I doing the right thing here? Or are there other options that I can possibly consider? I love my girlfriend so much, but my relationship with my parents has been affecting ours too much. I just feel guilt over leaving my parents, and I guess mostly for my mom, since she's been so caring to me all the way up until this day. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, the first thing I would really want to know is if I really like this girl or not. Like, you're talking about not only moving to another country, but literally moving to another hemisphere to be with this lady. Like, do you really like this woman? Because if you don't really like her, moving out like that would probably be a really bad idea. I'm not saying don't do it, I just think you need to be really careful, because things could be so much different the second you move in together. So it is kind of nice to see that you're going to spend 3 months together in Sydney and at least have some kind of trial run of you guys living together and experiencing each other's company in like a full-time manner. Now, when it comes to your family being upset that you're going to be moving out, I mean, honestly, what were they expecting? Were they expecting you to live at home for the rest of your life and stay around them all the time forever? Like, that just doesn't seem reasonable in my opinion. But I think your parents' concerns about your girlfriend are also valid. You've only known her for 6 months, and for you to suddenly move out and go to Canada, that's like a big step. So in my opinion, I think you just need to be careful regardless of what you do, because this is a big step no matter what, and I think you at least owe it to yourself to carefully consider your options moving forward. Am I the jerk for not forcing my family to share their inheritance with my children? Because right now, they're upset, as well as my ex-wife, who's also upset. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I have 2 kids. I have a 14-year-old male and a 16-year-old female. And I also have an ex by the name of Tammy. Tammy is not her real name. According to the divorce decree, neither one of us can take the kids out of state without prior written consent from the other. Now, this was fine for the most part, as neither Tammy or I had any desire to go through any more hassle of co-parenting than we already do. However, my father recently passed away. It wasn't a shock because he was sick for a long time, so while I was sad he was gone, I was also relieved he wasn't suffering anymore. About 50 years ago, my father came to America, got an education, and made something of himself, but always missed his home country. When it was determined that there was nothing more that could have been done for him, my father wanted to spend his last year in his home country. My sister happily obliged my father's wishes and quit her job to go with him and help with his care. My brother, my other sister, and I would also take at least one trip over to see him. Then the holidays came around, and my father really wanted to see all of his grandchildren together one last time. My brother and other sister were able to bring their kids over, but when I brought this up to Tammy, which was 3 months ago by the way, she said she'd have to think about it. I gave her as much time as I could, but flights overseas during the holidays were expensive, so when I asked her again, Tammy said she needed more time. I asked how much more time did she actually need, and that led to a fight, and Tammy ended up saying that she wouldn't agree. She also got to my kids and said that they didn't want to go either, citing that they don't speak the language and how they shouldn't have to be inconvenienced just because their grandfather decided to leave the country. Now, I was upset, but I let it go, and I could tell my dad was a little hurt that the kids didn't come. He tried to video chat them twice, but got no response. We had one final dinner together where my dad made a speech about how grateful he was for his family and discussed his will. Aside from my sister who took care of him, the majority of his financial estate would go to his grandkids, and he would be leaving the rest of us sentimental things, which we were all really cool with. He passed a few weeks later, and at the reading of the will, my brother and other sister's kids got a decent size of the trust fund, whereas my kids weren't mentioned at all. I did bring this up once, and my sister said that our dad really was hurt, that he wasn't worth a video call in his final moments, and only opted to leave them sentimental things. When my kids found out, they were furious, and Tammy demanded that I sue my sister or my nieces and nephews, but I refused. My kids see this as me putting someone else before them, as well as punishing them for not agreeing to go, but I don't see it that way at all. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, literally, what he puts in his will is completely up to your dad. You have no control over that, and he could have done that for literally anybody. Also, the only reason Tammy's getting upset about this is because she doesn't have the chance to try and mooch off of her family. Like, she only wanted her kids to get some of that money because she wanted to try and take that for herself. Like, Tammy has some very jaded motivations in my opinion, and there's no way I would trust her disagreement in the slightest. So no, of course you're not the jerk here. Tammy's being weird, and your kids are kind of reaping what they sow. Because the least they could have done was at least go for some kind of video chat. Because that really would have been the bare minimum, and if they're unhappy with that, then that honestly is their own fault. My boyfriend wants me to move in with him, but I honestly don't want to, especially considering that his dad would also still be living there, and he is incredibly obnoxious and very strict with his house rules. And now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years now, and we have started discussing moving in together. I want to save money and buy a house in the next 1 to 2 years. However, he wants to buy his house that he and his dad live in and flip the house. So he has no plan of moving out of his childhood home anytime soon. For reference, his dad has a heart condition that limits his ability and is likely going to pass away in the future. He's doing just fine now with regular medication and doctor's visits, but he is limited in his abilities. The house has $60,000 left, and it's paid off plus around $15,000 in back taxes his dad has. My issue isn't that he wants to buy his house, but it's that I don't want to live with his dad, as I find it incredibly weird, and that I would have to tiptoe around him in the house. His dad is a big-time hoarder and very super strict about throwing stuff away or how the house stuff is used at all. Let me just give you some examples to try and illustrate this. If I throw away, let's say, a paper towel in the recycling bin, he will come tell me that it's not on the list and I need to check with him before throwing stuff away. Or I used a regular pan to cook onions and he freaked out because that pan is only used for eggs. He has also had an issue with the fact that I use too much toilet paper, for crying out loud. This past summer, I tried helping clean up the yard because my boyfriend works too much and his dad's heart condition doesn't allow him to do any yard work. So I started cleaning up the yard. His dad gave me the tools to do it, and so I took out a wild berry bush that was infested in the planter. Well, his dad lost his mind because I took out the berries in the plant. I have explained to my boyfriend that I do not want to move into the house with his dad living there, and he just thinks that I just need to respect his dad's wishes and all will be fine. Now, respect is one thing I can understand, but his demands are entirely unreasonable. He has no interest in moving out, and I don't want to live separately for our entire relationship. So I honestly feel so stuck, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, that is an environment I would not want to live in at all. Like, your boyfriend is basically being like, oh, come on, move in with us. You only have to listen to my adult father all the time. For reference, both of these people are 23 and 22 years old, and in my opinion, that's definitely old enough to make your own decisions. Like, I don't know about you, but as an adult, I don't like getting bossed around by another adult. And I can guarantee you, if you moved into that house with your boyfriend and his dad, there's no way you would ever have any kind of freedom. It also doesn't help that this guy's like a massive hoarder. He saves things and keeps it off to the side pretty much all the time, and that in and of itself would be incredibly obnoxious. So no, I don't blame you for not wanting to move in with him, because what you're describing, in my opinion, sounds incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for telling my dad I'm pregnant without my stepmom also being present? Because right now she is very upset with me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of backstory, my mom passed away unexpectedly when I was 20 years old. I lived with my dad and I helped him through everything until I was 26 years old. Him and I grew very close in this time, and this is also when he met my now stepmother. They married 6 months after they met, and me and my siblings were not happy about it. We were all very close at the time and advised my dad to just wait. He simply stated that they were older, with the both of them being in their late 50s, and they knew what they wanted. He stated that we would have time to get to know her more after they got married. Now, let me preface this by saying that I don't hate my stepmother. She can be very sweet and thoughtful, and my dad is very happy. However, she has always had this expectation that we would all have this amazing relationship with her, and that we would be best friends. She really likes to give advice freely to everybody, and she does this quite often. I know my siblings feel the same way, and she and my dad always say they don't expect me to treat her like my mom or have that kind of relationship, but I feel like they do actually expect that. I'm now 29 years old, and I'm married, and my dad and her have been together for a little over 4 years. A couple of months ago, my dad sat me down and told me all the ways that I had recently offended my stepmom by comments that I've made or things I sent to her on social media. Now, for reference, this isn't the first time that this has happened, and also, I've only sent stuff to her on social media that I thought was funny. They weren't meant to target her or anything like that. Apparently though, for months, she has just been keeping a checklist of everything I have done that has ever made her upset in the slightest. Now, instead of her talking to me directly about it, my dad came to me to have this discussion. I told him I never wanted to be offensive or hurt her feelings, and that the videos that I sent were just jokes. And apparently this has been happening with my sister as well. All my siblings now feel a strain in their relationships with my dad. Well, fast forward and I find out that I'm pregnant. We were going to wait to tell my dad, but I was too excited. So one day when he came over unexpectedly, I just told him right there on the spot. My husband wasn't there, but he really wasn't that upset about it at all. I will admit I did kind of want the opportunity to tell my dad without my stepmom present, because she can be really overbearing and give all the advice she has. She really has a tendency to take over the conversations. But again, I hadn't really planned on telling him that day. Well, my dad's reaction was very unenthusiastic. It's going to be his first grandchild, so I thought he would maybe be a little bit more excited. I told him he can't tell anyone yet, and he said he wanted to tell his wife, and I said that wasn't a problem for me. That night, she called and congratulated my husband and I. Well, a couple days later, I get a call from my dad telling me how offended his wife was because she was not included in being told. Then he said to me, "Well, wouldn't you want your mom to know?" And when he said that, I absolutely lost it. We eventually ended the conversation with me telling him that she needs to talk to me directly if she's got a problem. I reached out to her saying that I didn't mean to upset her and that we should talk, and she just hasn't replied. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your stepmom is being really petty and only goes through your father to try and resolve any supposed issues. And these really are supposed issues. It seems like she's cherry-picking any problem she has with you while also refusing to talk to you like an adult. And the fact that your dad and stepmom would expect you to treat your stepmother like some kind of actual mother figure in your life, in my opinion, is incredibly rude and very intrusive. That lady is not your mom. Your mom passed away when you were 20 years old. This isn't a scenario where you grew up suddenly with a stepmom at the age of 6 years old. Like your dad literally remarried later in life when you're definitely an established adult. So it's completely unreasonable for anyone to be like, yeah, that's your mom now, you gotta treat her as such. So no, with all things considered, you are definitely not the jerk. The stepmom seems incredibly petty, and if I was in your shoes, I would not want to deal with that in the slightest. My entitled parents named me Anakin Skywalker, and now as a result, I'm getting bullied and made fun of by teachers and students in high school. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I get severely bullied at school, all because of the name my parents gave me. My parents are huge Star Wars fans, and when I was born, they decided to name me Anakin Skywalker. And no, I'm not joking, that is actually my name. My parents' last name isn't Skywalker, my dad's last name is Thompson, and my mom's last name is O'Connor. When they got married, they decided to hyphenate their last name, so their last name is Thompson O'Connor. However, when I was born, they gave me Anakin as my first name and Skywalker as my last name, and I don't even have a middle name. Because of this, I got bullied, and I still get bullied at my school. For it, I joined the school football team, and the players sometimes call me Annie, and they make fun of me saying, "Use the Force." When I get angry and tell them to stop, the coach will come and he will make fun of me too, saying, "Don't go all dark side with me now." And it's honestly so embarrassing. I have one friend who we will call Emma, that's not her real name, and she just calls me Anakin when we are alone. But when she introduces me to her friends outside of school or her siblings, she just calls me Sky to save me from the embarrassment. I told my parents, but they said the kids are just jealous. Now, I don't really hate my name. I mean, I do like it, and I actually like my last name Skywalker, but I get made fun of by the teachers and students. And I don't even like Star Wars. I find the movies boring. My parents would force me to watch them, and they were just so boring to me. I thought the last three with a female lead were more fun and adventurous, but that's about it. It was kind of weird seeing the character of Anakin on screen, all because we share the same name. But even then, I never really liked the character in the movies. He was annoying and kind of a jerk to everybody except his wife. I did like him in the animated show, but even then, he wasn't my favorite character. Because I don't like Star Wars all that much, and I don't really watch it, the students and teachers make corny Star Wars references that I don't get sometimes, because I'm not into it like that. And some students even call me Vader. I honestly just want to be called Anakin or Skywalker, and just be treated normally without being made fun of or people making dumb Star Wars jokes and references. I know I sound ungrateful, but I'm not. I do like my name, and I do like the character, kind of. I only like really the cartoon version, and I thought he was cooler as a supervillain. But even then, I just want to be treated normal, even though my name isn't normal and I don't hate my parents. I mean, I see where they're coming from. They love Star Wars and they love the character. And I love the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's my favorite show, and I've watched it all the time since I was little. I'm super hyped for the Netflix live action show, and when I'm older, if I had a daughter, I could see myself wanting to name her after one of the female characters. And the same thing if I had a son. I like my name and I don't want to change it, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I guess when I graduate, I'm going to just go with Sky because Annie sounds too much like a girl's name, and I can't go with Anna because that sounds like a girl's name too. I'm honestly at such a loss, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna put this in perspective for the original poster real quick, and basically let them know that their parents are awful for doing this to you. Like, they knew what they were doing. Not only did they give you the name of somebody who's like the most famous villain in like movie history, but they also changed your last name. Like, that's insane to me. Why on earth would they do that to you? And it seems like you're taking it in stride and you're trying to make the best of it, but seriously, I can't imagine the bullying that you're going through. And it also is really disappointing that the teachers are mocking you instead of stopping the other kids from mocking you, because obviously this is bothering you. It's not something you want to deal with. Because seriously, who would want to deal with that? That's like naming your kid Harry Potter. Like, that would be horrifying. Are you kidding me right now? Or even worse, naming them Tom Riddle, which is the real name of Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. Like, that just sucks overall to have to deal with that literally for the rest of your life, and it is seriously not fair for you in the slightest. So hopefully things get better for you in the future, because your parents set you up terribly, and it is not fair for you to deal with this level of scrutiny all over a name that you never even wanted. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband yelled at me and broke my belongings because he thinks I'm a narcissist. And right now I'm so confused because he has never acted like this, and it seriously leaves me unsure of what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 2, and in the past 6 months or so, he has had a vested interest in calling me vain, self-absorbed, conceited, or something similar to that. I have no idea why, and he just does it offhandedly, almost like he's making a joke, but a joke that definitely has some truth weaves into it. That being said, I will admit that I do enjoy nice things. I'm what you would call a girly girl, and I do take interest in my looks. I wear makeup and purchase new stuff a lot. I do my hair every single day. I wear nice clothing and skirts and dresses a lot. I spend my own money on my products and clothing, so that isn't the issue either. My husband will buy me jewelry and makeup that he knows that I would like, but I never ask and I always thank him. And no, I haven't changed. I've always been like this, and he's never had a problem with it before. Anyway, so this happened about 3 days ago. My husband got home from work and I was in our bedroom organizing some of my stuff. He walked in and I could tell he was about to sit on our bed, so I told him, "Careful, my glasses are right there," because they were. And these are the glasses that I wear to see. He responds by rolling his eyes and asking why I'm so protective of my accessories. I responded back and I said I'm not. They're my literal seeing glasses, and rolled my eyes back. My husband then looked at me for a moment, stood up and went to my dresser. He pulled out my very expensive sunglasses and snapped one of the arms off of it. I stared at him with my mouth open, and he tossed the broken glasses into my lap and actually said to me, "Then you're not mad about that, right?" Now, I responded by yelling, and I know that I shouldn't have, but I asked him, "What is wrong with you?" Yes, I'm mad about that, and if he has a problem with me or the way I look or dress, he just needs to address it and stop being so passive-aggressive and rude. In response to that, my husband says, "Okay, I will." He went to the bathroom where I keep my everyday makeup, threw the entire little organization thing against the hallway wall, and slammed the door so hard the knob broke. When he was walking back towards me, I told him to get away from me while you're acting like a complete psychopath. Does makeup really make you that mad? Well, when I said that, he proceeds to yell at me, accusing me of wanting male attention, other people's attention, and wanting to leave him. I told him that's not true, and if he felt that way, he needs to address it like a normal person who can handle their emotions, which only made him more sad. He came up to me and forcefully rubbed the lipstick off of my lips, accusing me of wearing it for someone at my work. Now, I had just gotten home before him, so I was wearing my work clothes still. He also grabbed the end of my dress and yanked it up, proving how short it was, even though it wasn't. I pushed him away and I told him to not touch me. That's when he demanded that I prove that I didn't like my coworker. I said, "How in the world do I prove that?" And he said, "By being a good wife, and that I need to stop being such a narcissistic jerk." Well, that's when I turned around and left. I got my keys and I drove to my friend's house and just absolutely sobbed for hours. Of course, I immediately started to receive apology text messages and calls, but I just didn't answer. I went back when I knew he would usually be sleeping. That was Tuesday, and the next day was Valentine's Day, and and of course, he was the perfect husband that day. We haven't talked about his outburst, but we've barely talked at all. I just don't know how to feel. He's never done this before. He's never acted like this. I mean, why is he acting like this? How do I even fix it? Nothing he said was true, but he was still so adamant. Is this even fixable? What should I do? I'm gonna say this as honestly as I can. I think your husband sounds incredibly dangerous. What starts off as him throwing things against the wall, as well as getting physically aggressive with you, eventually could lead to him getting violent. And that, in my opinion, should be the biggest red flag you've ever seen in your life. It also really seems like this guy is projecting his own insecurities and faults on you. Like all of a sudden, overnight, he's like, wow, you're such a narcissist. Prove to me that you don't like your coworker. You plan on leaving me, don't you? It's like, buddy, what in the world are you talking about? This guy's destroying your belongings, he broke a door, and he did physically get violent with you. And even though he just grabbed you and it wasn't like him hitting you or anything like that, in my opinion, that is still not okay, and he absolutely should not have done that. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be taking a good hard look at all that's been going on, because what you described sounds very scary, and I know if I were you, I definitely would not take this lightly. An entitled solicitor walks directly into my grandparents' house as he's trying to pawn off and sell his overpriced oil change to my grandparents. And I've honestly never been more annoyed or astonished by somebody's entitlement, as well as how rude they could possibly be in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so some dude that we will call Chad, because I don't know their actual real name, was trying to promote his auto shop and other stuff. And so I'm in my grandparents' house and I answer the door, and this guy starts talking about his auto shop all in French until I tell him I don't speak French. After poorly explaining why he's there, Chad then sees my grandparents and starts talking to them afterwards in French again. So it's really difficult to even understand what he's saying. He then asks if he can come inside the house. I go to say no, but he doesn't even wait for an answer and just kind of walks in but stays at the door. So how the house is set up, the second you walk in, there are like 5 steps going into the house, both up and down. As Chad continues talking to my grandparents, he starts walking up the stairs further into the house. At this point, he accidentally hits me as he walks by and tells me to move instead of apologizing for hitting me. I'm obviously upset, but my grandparents are able to get him to leave along with his $200 oil change. Like, I took a mechanics class and it should not be that expensive, even if synthetic oil is used. Even without the class, you can find that out with a Google search. So later in the day at around 7:00 p.m., this guy came back. This time my aunt answers the door, but where I'm sitting in the house, you can clearly see me. So he calls out and he's like, yo, where's your dad? He only met my grandfather, so I'm assuming that's what he meant. I then go up to the door and I tell him to leave. I had to say the words go and leave about 15 times before he even started stepping away. And he only started stepping away as my aunt started closing the door, so I doubt my words actually spurred him to go. I even had to pull out the card of saying that I've taken mechanics classes and I can do my own oil change. And as Chad's leaving, he says, I swear I'm a nice guy. Like, who says that? I mean, this is not how solicitors should act. Like, people already don't like solicitors. You're making it worse, you know. It's also weird to me that he remembers the house and the people inside. And I should have just said that I will call the police. But now I'm upset and I wish I'd done something more instead of just standing idly the first time he came around. I'm just worried because what if he comes back again? Like, he's actually scaring me, because why would he come back at 7 o'clock in the first place? Like, it's dark outside. I'm also tempted to write a strongly worded letter with a company that he works for, but at this point, I'm not even sure if he actually is a salesman or if he's just a scammer. So at this point, I'm so annoyed and I now seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it really seems like this guy was an absolute scammer. Like, think about it. This guy came back when it's almost dark out, looking for your grandparents again. Like, that is so sketchy. It's not even funny. And this guy was trying to sell a $200 oil change. Like, that is nuts to me. There's no reason that should cost that much, and seriously, that absolutely is a scam. And it really does seem like he was targeting elderly people just so he could get some like quick cash out of them, and that is really not okay. So in my opinion, I would warn your family and lock the doors, because this Chad guy is seriously up to no good. My entitled 75-year-old roommate filed a restraining order against me, claiming that I stole his personal property as well as made threats against him in the process. And I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is going to be a long one, and I would appreciate all the help that I could get. I got a restraining order on me under false pretenses from my landlord/roommate. He accused me of stealing money, jewelry, and his 2006 tax returns, and he filed a police report and a a no contact order on me despite no evidence. He also claimed he felt threatened and unsafe in his own home and had to put a lock on his door. For reference, I'm an 18-year-old male and I moved into a place in January of this year with an older 75-year-old gentleman. Within 2 weeks, we had a garage sale that lasted 3 days, and during the garage sale, we had people in the garage and inside the home where we had racks of clothing and in the garage. I would say we had over 200 people come over 3 days, and during the first day, I sold about $1,200 worth of items, and at the end of the day, I counted it in front of him, he gave me my cut, and he took the money. The next day, we sold around $600, and then he claimed he lost $200 from the first day and $300 from the second day. On Sunday, he confronted me about it by saying, "I don't care if you took it because you can't pay rent, but just be honest." Well, I denied all the claims, and I told him I don't need his money, nor his $500. It's not worth the risk of ruining a great living situation. And I have $5,000 sitting in cash in my room right now. Then he claimed he was missing jewelry. Now, keep in mind, when I lived with him, he locked his keys in his car twice in the span of 3 weeks and couldn't remember many things. After the garage sale, we continued living together very cordially, watching football together, making dinner, and having conversations. There was no hostility or violence in the house ever. But one day after that, he said he saw a tax return outside on the driveway, and when he got back home, it was gone. He was worried that someone was gonna try and take his identification, and I tried soothing him so he calmed down. Well, on the 2nd of February, he got home and told me he filed a police report for all the jewelry and money he lost because he has home insurance. But little did I know that he filed it all on me. We continued living great together all the way up until February 14th. We even watched the Super Bowl together. But on the 14th, I was in my room when a cop opens my door and stated that I needed to pack some bags and leave based on the no contact order. Now, I did so with no issue, and the night after, I then received a lease termination based on accusations of theft and me threatening the old guy. The deadbolt on his door was installed before I toured the place, and I have an eyewitness to that. So that leaves me with some questions. I am already planning on appealing the protective order, and I feel I have substantial proof to get it thrown out. But where do I take it next? Do I countersue as well? He owes me about $1,800 for the last month, which is prorated rent for February and my deposit, which he states I won't receive based on damages done. I mean, I lived in the house for less than a month and didn't damage a thing. I don't know if I should start looking for a lawyer and getting consultations or if a public defender will suffice, but I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I really think you should probably get a lawyer. This sounds like a messy legal situation, and it sounds like you're gonna end up in some kind of courtroom pretty much regardless. But what I can say is that your roommate is absolutely awful. He clearly is lying or making this up in some kind of way, or he's trying to justify him losing his property by blaming it on you. And he feels he can probably get away with it because you're a teenager. Sure, you're 18 and you're considered an adult in the United States, but I remember what I was like when I was 18 years old, and trust me, I did not understand the world in the slightest. And that's not because of my own fault, but rather just from a lack of experience. And I bet you this guy is trying to use that against you and use your lack of experience in the world to try and get one over on you and get this claim back through his home insurance. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely look for a lawyer that can help you out, because this guy not only owes you money, but he's also falsely accusing you of something that you did not do. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not take that for a second. An entitled Karen at Planet Fitness tries to get me in trouble, claiming that I'm hovering over her as she's working out and that I was being intrusive the entire time she was working. But thankfully, the gym staff as well as another witness close by saw the entire thing, and they vouched for me well above what the Karen could possibly say. Here's what happened. So I just encountered a wild Karen from Planet Fitness. Two things to keep in mind about me. I'm 6'1", about 2 meters tall, and I weigh about 240 pounds. This is relevant because I've dealt with many people like this who think they can get me in trouble because I'm a larger male, with them just trying to play the victim card. I was down to my last exercise on one of the machines, and there was a middle-aged blonde woman using it, so I stood about 8 feet away. I did not even look in her direction. I was listening to music on my earbuds, watching one of the many TVs while glancing back at my phone here and there. About 5 minutes into it, she turns to me. I take my headphones out and she asks me if I'm waiting for the machine. I say yes, and then I look back at my phone. This Karen says, "Well, I'm gonna be a while." So I respond by saying, "No rush, take your time." She then gets up and waves her hand in my face. She says to me, "Can you not stand over me?" I look at her and I say, "I am not standing anywhere near you. I'm patiently waiting for the machine." I even even made sure my body wasn't facing her in an aggressive manner. At this time, there was an older woman who just sat down at the next machine over, and she said, "Don't worry, honey, you can come stand over me." We both laughed, and I moved about 2 feet over to her and away from the Karen. The Karen starts to mutter insults to herself, but I don't really care, and I go back to my music. About 10 minutes later, she dramatically gets up and yells at me. She says, "You can jump on it now," and she says this as she marches towards the front desk. I reply to her by saying, "Don't worry, I'll wipe it down and clean it for you," because of course she didn't do it. I get my sets in, and then I walk up to the front desk, asking them what she said about me. One of them replies by saying, "You? She was talking about you?" The second person at the desk says that I'm the nicest person in here. I come in, I do my work, and I never bother anybody. They compliment me again by saying I'm the sweetest guy and I'm always polite, that they've had problems with this Karen in the past, and that I don't have anything to worry about. While the three of us are chatting and laughing, I glance across the gym at Karen and I see that she is giving me the death glare. Then this other guy walks up to me and tells the two staff members that he saw the whole thing, that the woman is something else, and that I was nothing but polite to her and she was being belligerent. He then looks at me and says that I handled that a lot better than he would have. Now, this ending might not be as satisfying as you might want it to be, but it's a huge win for me, and I just had to share it online. These situations don't always work out in my favor, and I'm just thankful it did, and that this Karen had to sit there getting more angry and more miserable. Yeah, you know for a fact that Karen was trying to pull one over on you. She definitely wanted to get you in trouble in some kind of way, and that's all because you were standing, what, 8 feet away? Like seriously, you're off to the side, minding your own business, and you're even facing away from her. Like this lady was clearly just trying to cause problems. And it really just doesn't make sense because you literally said nothing to her. And that's the part about this that bothers me the most. It's like she saw this big guy standing there and she made this wild assumption that you're like standing and hovering over her. But it's like, really? He's standing across the room. He is literally not even bothering you. It's also really nice that the gym staff had your back, because this very easily could have been a different story if they didn't know who you were. Not to mention the other guy who saw the entire thing. So good for you for keeping your cool and handling this so well, because that Karen was looking for a fight, and it's really nice that you decided not to give it to her. An entitled family lets their kids run loose in our restaurant, constantly getting in the way, while also causing our serving staff to drop food and water on the ground. But it all came to a head when my coworker stepped in and told off the party that had all these kids running around, saying that they were awful parents and that if they couldn't watch their kids, then they should leave the restaurant. And as a result, the mother of the kids ran out of the restaurant crying, and I'm honestly still in shock of everything that my coworker did to put this entitled family in their place. Here's what happened. Okay, so my coworker, who we will call Tatiana, that's not her real name, made a woman at my table cry and leave the restaurant. For some background, I work at a huge restaurant in the Florida Keys, and we are very busy because our restaurant is one of the few on the island able to take big groups. So when a party of 15 come in, it's honestly no big deal. Although this party had 8 kids ages ranging from 3 to 9 years old. Everything is going smoothly in the beginning. The parents are consistently ordering rounds of drinks, they're ordering expensive food, and they're pretty nice people even though they are a little needy. The only issue was the kids as they began to run around the entire restaurant. This is pretty normal because, well, they are children, and with 8 of them, it is pretty hard to keep all of them sitting at a table at once. However, the parents were not stopping them or even watching them as they began to run into our food runners and servers, which did cause one waitress to drop a tray of waters, which is not a huge deal, but still, it shouldn't have happened. At this point, the wait staff became frustrated with the behavior of the parents for not stepping in and trying to settle the kids down, or at least watch them in some kind of way. However, they were about to pay, so we only had to deal with it for a little bit longer. Now, before I share what happened next, you should have a little bit of background information on one of our waitresses. We'll call her Tatiana, and she is a red-headed Russian woman with a very thick accent who chain smokes and has only lived in America for maybe 3 years. Therefore, she's very bold and a little forward with her comments sometimes. As the group of 15 pay their tab, they apologize for the kids running around and say thank you as this is their first vacation with all the kids and felt as though they finally got time to relax. As the parents are finishing their drinks before heading out, Tatiana finds one of the kids on the opposite side of the restaurant near our back wait station. She grabs the little girl by the arm and walks her over to the table. She could have just brought the girl back and not said a word, but that is not Tatiana. She proceeds to find the girl's mother, who is obviously very pregnant, and says to her something that really blew my mind. She said, "You need to be a better mother. I just found her over there and you don't even care. Your kids have been running around for over an hour. Keep them in line or leave this restaurant." Well, the woman was mortified when she heard this and began crying as the other adults at the table are sitting in shock over what was just said. The crying woman immediately got up and quickly walked out of the restaurant as I was walking over to the table to ask if everything was okay, and I did not know at all what Tatiana had just said. After the other adults angrily told me, I found my manager, who then rushed to catch the lady and try to reconcile the situation. The group explained they will not be coming back to this restaurant and recommended that we fire Tatiana for her atrocious words. Now, when it comes to Tatiana, she wasn't written up, fired, or sent home for the night. The case she made for herself to the manager was that the kids were disrupting the restaurant workers and the other customers, and that she was worried for the safety of the kids too. Our restaurant is waterfront with accessible boardwalks, so they could have fallen into the water, gotten a tray dropped on them, or could have ended up in our busy parking lot because we are a tiki restaurant with many different exit points. But it honestly leaves me with a serious question. Should Tatiana have been reprimanded for what she said to the pregnant woman, or did she do the right thing by standing up for the rest of the customers and waitstaff? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to think. Okay, your coworker Tatiana is my hero because she said the quiet part out loud for all of us. The family in this story absolutely needed to be better parents, and they need to do a better job of keeping their kids in line. Because honestly, all of her points are valid. That child could have gotten really hurt, she could have run into the kitchen and gotten hurt, or taken out by a car in the parking lot. Like seriously, there's so many things that could have gone wrong. And sure, Tatiana was probably frustrated, and her reasoning for telling off this family was probably multifaceted, but those points that she made legitimately, in my opinion, completely justifies the way she talked to this family. They were not watching their kids, and it was a detriment to literally everybody in the restaurant. And honestly, if that family never wants to come back, then in my opinion, good riddance. They were clearly just being a nuisance in the restaurant, and they were being incredibly disrespectful to everybody in there. So in my opinion, I don't think your coworker's the jerk at all, and I think she did the best thing for everybody in the restaurant. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled group of Karens complain about their food, claiming that there's hair all over their food and demanding that they get a discount on all the food that they got. Here's what happened. So this happened to me last night, and of course I'm coming here to brag about it because this was just absolutely hilarious. And this moment with my table has probably made my entire year. I work at a casual fine dining steakhouse, and the prices are a little bit high. And this is a situation where even two people could eat at our restaurant together, and the bill could be at least $100. Anyways, President's Weekend is always chaotic and extremely busy. I had a 6-top of these diva 18-year-olds come in, and from the start they were very rude and talking down to me because I'm a server. Now, I'm very non-confrontational. I just ignored it and kept pushing through. Things were going fine until towards the end when it was time to get their checks. Now, all of a sudden, there were just a list of complaints. They said to me, "There's hair everywhere. It's on my steak, it's on my napkins, it's on the table. This is so gross. I'm not paying for this." Then she picks up the hair from her steak and it's a brown hair. None of us at my restaurant have brown hair. I have red hair and most of us have black hair, with a few of us being blonde. But it does look like her hair though. But I really didn't care. I wasn't going to battle it as it wasn't my job, so I just told management. So management goes up to the table and she gives them the filet. Our filet is cheaper than our New York strip, and this will be important later on. Management doesn't feel like fighting her on it, so they comp off the filet. I drop off the bill and this lady is angry and starts arguing with me again. She says to me, "It wasn't the filet you took, it was the New York strip. I want the New York strip taken off." I tell her that my manager said it was the filet you gave him. So it was the filet he was going to take off the check. Now she's even more angry and says that my management doesn't know their cuts of meat, which is blatantly not true, as they definitely know what they're talking about, as do I. But nonetheless, I go back to my manager. At this point, he is completely done. He decides he's just going to leave the filet comped off, but he will discount the New York just to get them out of here. Because at this point, I'm done and he's done with them. What he did was cheaper than just getting rid of the New York cut and adding the filet back, which was like over $20 cheaper. So I bring the new check and she's still upset because she doesn't want to pay for the New York strip at all. Then it starts happening. My other table has watched this from the beginning and they too have had enough. They literally yell at my table of divas, saying that that is absolutely ridiculous. The diva table wouldn't say a word to them, and my table of good Samaritans pulled me aside and they were telling me that if that table even looked at me wrong again, they were gonna go over there and teach him a lesson. And they said this loudly on purpose because they wanted the divas to hear it. I go to my manager and now he's really aggravated. He does exactly what the diva asked and he removed the New York strip but puts the fillet back on and removes any discount off the check. And just like that, the bill goes up $25. Then I drop the check off and the diva takes a look at it and she finally notices the increase in price. She then makes a very surprised face, but she just doesn't say anything. And I think it's because the other table scared her. They pay and leave me a $5 tip for the entire bill. My other table that screamed at this diva table joked with me after they left, and they left me enough as a tip to literally cover the divas and theirs. And I'm honestly so sick of dealing with entitled people like this. Yeah, that's so weird because they literally could have taken the discount and then left the restaurant. But instead of doing like simple math, they decided to be difficult. And honestly, if you're not even gonna try to be halfway decent, then you deserve to get a higher price. And in my opinion, that is absolutely the reward that they deserve. My boyfriend is being way too lenient with his homeless friend who is currently staying in our spare room. And I'm honestly at a point where I want him gone, but I seriously am not sure how to go about doing it. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend has a friend from high school who is homeless and has been for a few years now. He keeps bouncing between different friends' houses, but he has stayed at ours the longest. He recently came back from Italy as he was staying with his mom, and I said yes to him staying, but said there had to be a deadline. My boyfriend agreed to this, and we told his friend he had 3 weeks to find a job as well as an alternative place to live. Now, it may sound like I'm being harsh, but he has stayed with us for months before and did absolutely nothing to better his situation during said times. He spent all of his money from the government on substances and was too high all day to apply for jobs or look at properties. My boyfriend even offered him a job at his workplace if he just filled out the application, and he failed to do this 3 different times. My boyfriend feels bad telling him that he has to go, and also says it's helpful having him to watch the dog if we go out. However, this friend creates more work for the both of us. I often finish work to find my benches covered in the herb and coffee, as well as urine on the bathroom floor and mud all over the rugs because he didn't take his shoes off after being outside. He also leaves his clothing, his mugs, and plates everywhere. He does tidy up if I tell him to, but I'm honestly sick of having to tell him. The icing on the cake happened this week. He agreed to give us about $200 a month for the room, utilities, food, and clothing being washed, but he only gave us $100. And this was because he failed to turn up to his appointment with the job center, with his excuse being that it was raining and my boyfriend was using the car, so his money was completely stopped. However, he magically found about $180 just so he could buy a big bag of the herb the next day. It's been a month now and he's only viewed 1 property. He hasn't applied for any jobs and hasn't applied for college. He has no qualifications, and since I'm a teacher, I offered to tutor him for free just to get him his English and math scores so he could apply to a local college. He still has nowhere to go, and I don't want to kick him out onto the street, but I just feel like we're enabling him to do nothing. We have no idea how to go about doing these things, as he talks about the dangerous side of depression whenever we do approach this subject. So I'm honestly now completely at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, from the sounds of it, in my opinion, it seems like this friend is manipulating you and your boyfriend. He is very clearly using you guys, and he just wants to live there for free, which is why he hasn't looked for a place to live or anything like that. And I just don't think that's fair at all. I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be putting my foot down and say to him that he has a hard cutoff by a certain time, and that he will be leaving on that day no matter what. Because doing anything other than that will only cause problems. If you're not firm and you don't tell him exactly what's going on, this guy will just keep living there no problem. He'll keep wasting his money on illegal substances and just completely get high all the time. So hopefully this goes well for you in figuring this out, because what you're dealing with right now sounds really annoying, and you definitely do not deserve to deal with this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling all of my friends and family the exact reason why my vacation home is off limits after my nephew started a kitchen fire and caused thousands of dollars worth of damage? Because I am still upset that my brother refuses to pay for that, despite the fact that his son is the reason that fire started in the first place. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I rent out my house through a service that includes insurance when it's in use. The insurance does not cover when I lend my house out to friends and family, since they are not paying to stay there. I have regular homeowners insurance for that. My brother was using my house with his family family just after New Year's. It's a slow time and I wasn't going to lose out on much income. My nephew stayed up late one night and didn't go out for breakfast with his family, so he decided to make himself some food. Well, long story short, he started a kitchen fire. He freaked out and called 911 instead of using the fire extinguisher in the kitchen. He is 14, so I can't blame him too much though. The smoke damage will cost about $8,000 to fix, and I told my brother he could take his time paying me back, but he said he wasn't going to pay for an innocent mistake. Now, I needed the house in order, so I just fixed everything. I didn't go through insurance since I do not want my rates to go up. I was obviously upset, so I posted about the fire and how upset I was at my brother, and pretty much all of my friends and family took the side of the innocent angel. They said it was unfair of me to expect that much money from him when he could have just rented a hotel for a fourth of the price. So, you know what? I agreed. I said that from now on, my house was off limits unless they rented it out, or I was there and they came as my guest. Since I only use the house with my family, that means they can rent it all or use the only empty bedroom. And that room has a twin bed and a crib. Now, the howling started that I'm being unfair to them for something that wasn't their fault. I offered to take up a collection from them to cover the repairs or the increased insurance premiums, and most of them just shut up. I directed them all to my brother, and he got quite angry with me for blaming him for the situation. I said I wasn't about to send a mob after my nephew. I bought the house after I got a settlement from a worksite accident. I used the income to supplement the difference in what I used to earn in my old job and what I do now. So I guess my question is honestly, am I the jerk here? Am I in the wrong for telling anybody who has a problem with me charging rent to take those complaints over to my brother and talk to him about it? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure what to do. You are 100% justified for asking for rent and for directing all questions to your brother. In my opinion, your brother absolutely should have paid for all of that damage, and his stupid kid is 100% at fault. How on earth do you cause a kitchen fire like that and not know to try and put it out? You don't just stand by and let it go up in flames. Like, what are you doing? Get a fire extinguisher or some water or something. To sit there and be like, oh, I gotta call the police and then not do anything about it is insane to me. Like, some common sense would have really gotten that kid a long way. And sure, it might sound like I'm being hard on a 14-year-old, but seriously, that is definitely old enough to know better. And at the bare minimum, not start a kitchen fire, for crying out loud. So no, you are not the jerk. These people have clearly taken advantage of your kindness and have denied any kind of help with paying for the stuff that they clearly destroyed. And in my opinion, if they really want to act like that, then they can go through the official means of renting that house if they really want to try and stay there. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my daughter as much as my son and refusing to supplement her check so that they are equal? Because right now she is really upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my two oldest kids are in college and working part-time to earn some spending money. They live at home and we pay for their tuition, cars, insurance, and basically everything except for spending money. I have my own small construction company and I run a crew of about 15 men, including my son. Lately, we've been doing mostly roofing jobs. My son's job is to help take off the old shingles, put up any shingles that miss the dumpster, and help prep the roof. Once the installation starts, he delivers a steady stream of shingles, nails, and other materials to the nailers. It's a dangerous and hard job, so I pay him about $25 an hour. Now, my daughter works as a cashier, but most of the time she's standing at the self-checkout lanes and rarely works behind the register. She's paid about $15 an hour. Last weekend, my son bought his girlfriend a new iPhone for Valentine's Day and was talking about the restaurant he's going to take her to. Since it is an expensive phone and restaurant, my daughter asked where he's getting the money. That then led to how much I'm paying him, and she got mad. He's been working with me for about 4 months, but she's never shown any interest in what we do or asked anything about his job or pay, so it came as a surprise to her. The short version of a week-long argument in our house is that she thinks it's unfair he's making so much more than she is. I offered her the same hourly wage if she wants to join her brother on the roof, but she went once and didn't finish out the day. Instead, she wants to make up the difference between their paychecks. My wife thinks that I should come up with an easier job, like just let her pick up the shingles that miss the dumpsters. But I said that's an easy job, and I'm not paying her $25 an hour for a minimum wage job. I told her that she can make as much as her brother, but she doesn't want to carry heavy and dirty shingles. Well, now both women are giving me the silent treatment. My wife even went as far last night as to eat dinner with our daughter before my son, and I got home at 6 and later went to bed without saying a word to me all night. Now, for reference, my wife doesn't work. She stays at home and takes care of our younger kids. And when it comes to my company, it is a very small company. With 15 men, I have 2 crews on larger jobs or 3 on smaller jobs. There is no bookkeeping or other positions that she can do because I do those on the weekends. There's only the construction positions. None of our kids have any interest in taking over my company, and it'll close when I retire. Our son just got accepted into dental school, and our daughter is almost done with her education degree. But with all that in mind, I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for the way I explain this to my kids and my wife? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you explain this perfectly in my opinion. First of all, you have a small company. It's not like you have all these other positions available that your daughter can just suddenly fill to try and make that much money per hour. And also, your reasoning for why your son makes $25 an hour, in my opinion, is completely sound. This guy's working a dangerous job. He's working around debris as well as working on a roof, and he's doing all this stuff that is very high-skilled labor. Like, it is something that anybody could pick up and do, but it takes a lot of guts to get on that roof and be comfortable up there, while also still performing your job without like this fear of falling. I know for me personally, there's no way I would ever work on a roof because I have a massive fear of falling, so kudos to the original poster and his son for being so willing to do those jobs. So it honestly makes sense to me that your son would make more money than your daughter. And you know what? Being a cashier is incredibly easy. It is a very low risk type of job, especially compared to what your son is doing every day. I mean, she's just standing at the self-checkout center, and that honestly kind of takes care of itself, and you're only really there if things go wrong. And I'm not saying that it's not an important job, but it is definitely a lot safer than what your son is currently doing. And in my opinion, if your job is dangerous like this job, then you absolutely should be financially compensated for that. And you know what? This also teaches a very valuable lesson for your daughter because it shows her quite blatantly that some jobs get paid a lot more than other jobs. Jobs in construction or other dangerous jobs that require a lot of skill to know what you're doing safely, those will typically be higher paying jobs. Whereas working at a grocery store or some kind of clerical position, it will usually be a little bit lower paying, and I'm more referring to like entry level more than anything else. And there really is nothing wrong with working at a grocery store as a cashier or working as like a bookkeeper or anything like that. Like seriously, it doesn't matter in my opinion. If you make ends meet and you're able to support yourself and your family, like seriously, who cares what you do? But this does shed a very serious spotlight that there are jobs that are higher paying, but they might just be a little bit more dangerous. So I think the fact that your wife and your daughter are giving you the silent treatment is really weird to me, because I don't think you're the jerk and I don't think you deserve that in the slightest. Thank you so much for watching, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, be sure to check out Am I the Genius? We love what they're doing, and I think you're gonna love them as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.